Welcome to NTD News Today.
Here are today's top stories.
The so-called hush money trial continues today. Adult performer Stormy Daniels has to face former President Trump's defense team. Plus, what Trump said about the gag order this morning.
President Biden warns Israel the U.S. will stop shipping weapons if a major offensive in Rafah takes place. This after the Pentagon confirms a shipment of munitions is paused over concerns for civilians in southern Gaza.
A bipartisan show of support protects the gavel for House Speaker Mike Johnson. An overwhelming majority voted to set aside Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene's motion to vacate the chair.
Former President Trump's youngest son, Barron Trump, is making his political debut. What role is he expected to play?
A wave of dangerous storms marching through parts of the U.S. South today. That's after tornadoes left at least 3 dead yesterday.
The FAA delays new rules that require more rest for air traffic controllers due to fatigue issues. And the House votes on an extension for FAA programs set to expire.
This is NTD News Today, live from our NTD Global Headquarters. Here are Stephania Cox and Chris Beers.
Adult performer Stormy Daniels is expected to face tough questioning from former President Trump's lawyers today.
And Trump said his legal team is appealing the judge's gag order.
I just want to let you know that we've just filed a major motion in the appellate division concerning the absolutely unconstitutional gag order, where I'm essentially not allowed to talk to you about anything meaningful that's going on in the case, and many good things are going on with the case. It shouldn't have been filed. See, we have so many police down here, New York's finest, and they are New York's finest. They're just told what to do, but they don't have them at Columbia, they don't have them at NYU or any other places. This is like an armed camp down here, and you have nothing to worry about. Believe me, your problem is from the left, it's not from the right. Big problem from the left. It's from within our country. That's a bigger, in my opinion, a bigger danger than China or Russia.
Trump's legal team already succeeded in punching some holes in her account. Under questioning, Daniels admitted that she has not always told the truth about the encounter.
She also acknowledged that she has refused to pay Trump a judgment of more than $500,000 from a failed defamation lawsuit. On top of that, Daniels failed to provide a clear explanation about why she allegedly let Trump buy her silence after deciding to go public with her account.
Daniels also agreed that she hated Trump and wants to see him imprisoned if he's found guilty.
The former president could have some more friendly faces sitting in the courtroom today. One of them is Republican Senator Rick Scott, who's running for re-election in Trump's home state of Florida.
And President Biden says the U.S. will stop some shipments of weapons to Israel if it goes ahead with a major offensive in Rafah.
Biden says he's not walking away from Israel's security, but is walking away from Israel's war in population centers. Here's the president yesterday on paused shipments.
We're going to continue to make sure Israel is secure in terms of Iron Dome and their ability to respond to attacks like came out of the Middle East recently. But it's just wrong. We're not going to supply the weapons and the artillery shells used.
The Pentagon confirmed the U.S. has already paused one shipment of what Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin called high payload ammunitions. The U.S. was sending Israel 2,000-pound bombs to defend itself after October 7th.
Austin says the U.S. has been clear to Israel that a major attack into Rafah should not take place without a plan for civilians there.
The Pentagon said a final decision on the shipment hadn't been made. The administration is reviewing its potential sale for or transfer of other munitions.
Secretary Austin told the Senate panel yesterday that smaller, more precise weapons are needed for a densely populated area like Rafah.
And we're joined by international military strategist, retired Lieutenant Colonel Darren Gobb for insights. Welcome, Colonel. To begin with, what could be the impact?
Hey, good morning, Steph.
Yeah, good morning. What could be the impact in a practical sense for Israel's war effort in Gaza?
Well, first of all, this is a big message between two allies that the Biden administration is going to continue doing what it's been doing all along, which is at least appear on the public stage a little bit like they're backing Israel, but in their actions, they're not. With friends like these, who needs real enemies, right? I mean, Israel's looking at Biden, the Biden administration, like, well, you're clearly not an ally because this is what Israel needs to do to secure itself and its own strategic interests in the Gaza Strip. So, who knows what's really going on behind the scenes right now, but it definitely looks like you got an administration that's trying to thread the needle and play both sides of the equation on the domestic side for votes and on the international side for the appearance of, backing Israel while also not at the same time.
Yeah, on that point, what kind of impact do you think this could have on the U.S.'s standing as an ally more generally?
Well, one hopes and prays that the alignment between Israel and the United States as a people and as a nation will hold strong, and I'm certain that it will. The problem right now is the relationship between Netanyahu and Biden, because Netanyahu rightfully doesn't trust Biden, but knows that he has to have America's support in general in order to secure their own future, and especially if this grows into a wider conflict. But look what the United States has already done for Israel on a defensive footprint, meaning our Navy, and shooting down many of the drones and missiles that came from Iran most recently. So I think big picture, the relationship will remain strong. The hard part is going to be the fact that our national leadership, and specifically our president, doesn't look like he wants to be an ally of Israel right now.
Yeah, I heard Doug Burgum saying this morning that he believes that President Biden is essentially negotiating on behalf of the Hamas terrorists in the move that he's just made. We do know that this group, the Hamas terrorist group, is known to use human shields extensively. So could this move, in a sense, validate the effectiveness of that type of tactic, do you think?
Well, in the end, Hamas will always use human shields. It always has. And so it could validate those tactics to a point, because what Biden's actually doing is slowing the movement of munitions over to the area that are best used in these kinds of environments. So right now, it certainly does look like he's trying to give Hamas a greater edge and reduce the effectiveness of Israel and put all requirements on Israel and not demand anything real of Hamas. So it's hard to figure out, who Biden thinks his ally really is, and you can't blame Netanyahu for continuing forward regardless. So in the end, I think we've emboldened Hamas enough, and it's just a continuing tradition of this administration to strengthen our enemies and weaken our allies at the same time.
And to that point, I want to zoom out a little. How do you think the Chinese Communist Party and its allies are viewing the U.S.'s stance here?
Well, it's a continuation of the message of the Biden administration that not only are we weak, but when we do engage in international concerns, specifically conflict like Ukraine and Israel and wherever else it may go, we think the solution is just to throw a whole bunch of money at it and then weaken the allies at the same time by putting a bunch of demands on them and trying to tell them how to conduct their business when they know how to conduct their business just fine without us. We just need to stand behind them and what we're good at. So that is continuing. The Chinese see that, they know that, and unfortunately, what they're also seeing is a potential narrower window as the first 4 years of the Biden administration comes to an end. The Chinese are probably thinking, what happens if Trump's reelected? They may have to make some decisions now based on what they have in front of them.
Oh, so you see potentially a shortening of the time frame of their own potential operations or offensives?
Well, I mean, if you think like the Chinese, you are going to think like that. Like, okay, who do we have in the White House? It's Biden, and that's exactly who the Chinese would want there. They definitely would not want Trump. I'm not saying what China's going to do by any stretch of the imagination. That's just part of the equation for everything they're working on, whether it be militarily or economically or other actions they may take. So, as this trickles into the Middle East, their influence is gaining in the Middle East because even our allies are having a hard time staying alongside of the United States in spite of what we are doing there. So hopefully the long-term relationships stay in place. But right now, with our leadership or lack of leadership in the White House, it's getting harder and harder to keep China from completing many of the tasks and the strategies that they've been pursuing for decades, not only in East Asia, but now in Central Asia and the Middle East.
Right. Thank you so much for your analysis. And House Speaker Mike Johnson is still holding the gavel today after a bipartisan show of support.
An overwhelming majority vote last night denied Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene's sudden effort to oust Johnson.
Johnson afterwards said he intends to do his job and what he believes to be the right thing.
Greene says Johnson's leadership has been unacceptable and did not rule out forcing another vote in the future. NTD's Jeremy Sandberg has more on the vote to keep Johnson as Speaker.
Without objection, a motion to reconsider is laid on the table.
A 359 to 43 vote Wednesday kept House Speaker Mike Johnson in his job after Congresswoman Greene forced a vote on her motion to vacate the chair. Republican Majority Leader Steve Scalise countered, calling for a vote to set it aside. 11 Republicans voted against. Speaker Johnson called Greene's effort misguided and said he hoped it would be the end of frivolous character assassination and personality politics.
We're better than this. We need to get beyond it. The Speaker of the House serves the whole House. That's the job.
Johnson thanked colleagues for showing confidence in his leadership.
In this moment, the country desperately needs a functioning Congress, and that's what the overwhelming majority of the members in this body demonstrated today.
Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries says Democrats want the House to keep working in a bipartisan manner.
We need more common sense and less chaos in Washington, D.C.
Jeffries asked traditional Republicans to isolate performance artists and what he called an extreme wing of the GOP to make that happen.
We will continue to govern in a reasonable, responsible, and results-oriented fashion.
Former President Trump on Truth Social had urged Republicans to dispose of Greene's motion. Jeremy Sandberg, NTD News.
Police arrest dozens and use pepper spray to clear an anti-Israel tent encampment at George Washington University. NTD's Daniel Monahan has more on the events, which unfolded just as city officials were set to appear before lawmakers to account for their handling of the protests.
You're in violation of D.C. Code 22.
Washington, D.C. police began clearing the protest camp at George Washington University early Wednesday morning. Democrat Mayor Muriel Bowser said she and the police decided to clear the camp because of signs the protest was becoming more volatile and less stable. Police say protesters had reportedly gathered improvised weapons and were casing university buildings with the possible intention of occupying them. House Speaker Mike Johnson said it should not require threatening to haul D.C.'s mayor before Congress to keep Jewish students at George Washington University safe. Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib and others denounced the police crackdown.
Look, these students are saying save lives no matter faith or ethnicity. That's right. This is something that I feel like is being completely ignored.
You destroyed a beautiful community space that was all about love.
I've watched my fellow students, my close friends, be maced by police, have their hijabs ripped off.
Students at the university commented on the actions of the police.
I don't think it necessarily should have never happened. I'd say the level of violence definitely wasn't at a point where arrests were necessary.
I'm for it. Arrest them.
I think prior to this happening, it was very peaceful. It was totally fine within their First Amendment right. But then if it escalated, then I agree that there should be some sort of de-escalation going on.
They're vandalizing the property. They're not changing anything, and I think that if they have something to contribute, they should go get a job and then donate the money to their cause that they're fighting for.
George Washington University officials say police officers and security personnel will remain at the encampment site and the surrounding area. The yard where the encampment was will remain closed through the end of commencement on May 19th. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
The president of USC is now taking heat for countering campus protests. The University of Southern California's Faculty Senate voted to censure her and the provost. The resolution to censure President Carol Folt and Provost Andrew Guzman passed after a 3-hour session Wednesday.
Faculty aren't happy with the decision to cancel the valedictorian's commencement speech, change graduation plans, and remove protesters from campus. The resolution calls for a task force to investigate these events and then provide a public report on its findings by September 15th.
Coming up, the biggest super PAC supporting Trump joins TikTok. What it's doing on the short-form video app that's facing a potential ban.
And Miss Teen USA is resigning from her title just 2 days after Miss USA stepped down. More on why the two are leaving their roles coming up on NTD News Today.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see.
They're just young people, hungry, homeless, and vulnerable. Abused youth often feel safer on the street. Now, more than ever, that's the most dangerous place of all. Covenant House is helping young adults facing homelessness. We're providing safe shelter to thousands, but the need is overwhelming, and no young person is ever turned away. Please call or go online now with your gift of $19 a month to help a young person. You'll provide safe shelter, hot meals, and medical care. Your gift will show them they're loved. Homeless young people are afraid and alone with nowhere else to turn.
You want to know that there's somewhere you can go that's safe. So the Covenant House did that for us.
Please call now with your gift of $19 a month. We'll send you this blanket as a reminder of the comfort your gift provides a young person tonight. Please don't wait. Your gift is the lifeline a young person needs now. Call the number on your screen or go online to safeplacetosleep.org. Thank you for saving precious lives.
Does shopping for bladder control products have you feeling like you need someone to be on the lookout for you? Now you have your privacy back. We're HDIS, and we home deliver bladder control products directly to you. We're always on the lookout for you. You get free shipping in plain, unmarked boxes. So your private matters stay private. We understand how you feel. For over 35 years, we've delivered bladder control products to millions of Americans, just like you. You don't have to worry about incontinence any longer. Call now for your free product sample pack and over $45 in money-saving coupons. At HDIS, we're always in stock. We carry all brands in hundreds of styles and sizes. You'll be sure to get what you need, guaranteed.
For your free sample pack with your free catalog and $45 in money-saving coupons and free product samples, call 800-701-6159. That's 800-701-6159.
Join us on NTD Good Morning because we want you to stay informed.
Kickstart your morning with the latest you missed overnight.
Right, and don't forget that inspiration.
Absolutely, so let's shine some light on the good news too.
Tune in every weekday morning to NTD News.
More severe weather across parts of the U.S. Major storms yesterday spawned destructive tornadoes and produced massive hail and dangerous flooding.
The storms killed 2 people in Tennessee and 1 in North Carolina. The National Weather Service said water rescues were ongoing in flooded parts of Tennessee. It described the flooding as life-threatening.
And in New Hope, North Carolina, the fire department responded to a tree that fell on a car. Officials said 1 person was killed and another taken to a hospital. Here's more.
The National Weather Service continued issuing tornado warnings into the night, mainly in Tennessee, but also in Missouri, Alabama, Georgia, and Texas. Tornadoes were confirmed in Pennsylvania just outside Pittsburgh, also in central Arkansas and in northern West Virginia. In Missouri, baseball-sized hail was reported just southwest of St. Louis. A tornado near Nashville caused local authorities to shut down part of Interstate 65 because of damaged road signs, trees, and an overturned car. In Michigan, 3 tornadoes touched down in the state's southwest. The Kalamazoo area was hard hit, more than a dozen mobile homes destroyed.
Right now, we believe we're confirming a 16 number of people that were injured and taken to the hospital. Their injuries were all minor enough that it looks like everyone's going to be out of the hospital today.
Aerial shots show the devastation, ranging from partial to total destruction.
A tornado went through, and then about 45 minutes later, another tornado, almost on the direct same path, was coming through. So as emergency responders and citizens were standing in these streets trying to help one another, we were alerted a second tornado was coming in.
Local residents quickly came together after the tornadoes to help each other begin the long cleanup process.
People just started showing up. As soon as the tornado was gone, people whose homes were intact came up to help those whose weren't, and have started within minutes.
In Portage, Michigan, storefronts without walls or roofs were all that remained of a little shopping center. A restaurant manager said his staff took shelter in a walk-in cooler as the storm came in, saving their lives.
They said it just happened so quickly. Wind blew through, he got everybody into the walk-in cooler. He saved their lives yesterday.
The severe weather is forecasted to shift into the southeast and mid-Atlantic on Thursday, bringing with it more hail, damaging winds, and the possibility of a few tornadoes.
Maga Inc. arrives on TikTok. The biggest super PAC supporting former President Trump joined the controversial social media platform yesterday. The super PAC has already posted some content. One video criticizes Robert F. Kennedy Jr., calling him a radical leftist, and another focuses on voters' wallets. It poses the question of whether Americans can afford 4 more years of President Biden.
Taylor Buttigieg is CEO of Maga Inc. He wrote on X, the super PAC refuses to cede any platform to Biden and the Democrats. Buttigieg added they want to ensure Trump's America First agenda is brought to every corner of the internet and all across the nation. Former President Trump's youngest son, Barron Trump, has been chosen as an at-large delegate for Florida at the Republican National Convention.
18-year-old Barron joined several other family members, Donald Trump Jr., Eric Trump, and Tiffany Trump, who were also selected.
Trump's longtime friend and luxury real estate developer, Steve Witkoff, along with Trump advisor and associate Sergio Gore, are also listed as delegates.
The Republican National Committee will hold its convention in Milwaukee in July.
Donald Trump, the presumptive Republican presidential nominee, has said he will likely announce his running mate around that time.
Don King endorses former President Trump for president. The iconic boxing promoter made the remarks yesterday after being asked if he has a message for Trump. King remarked that people need to re-elect Trump to save themselves. He added that people have to fight what he called the system of lives.
According to King, what's right and wrong have been flipped upside down.
King said the former president underestimated the power of this strong system of corruption and hypocrisy.
Trump shared the video on Truth Social, thanking King for his endorsement and message of encouragement. Independent candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. had a brain parasite over a decade ago, but his campaign says he's now fully recovered. Kennedy traveled extensively in Africa, South America, and Asia in his work as an environmental advocate. A Kennedy spokeswoman said he contracted the parasite in one of those locations. She told Reuters the issue was resolved more than 10 years ago, and Kennedy is now in robust physical and mental health. Kennedy has portrayed himself as vibrant and youthful on the campaign trail compared to President Biden and former President Trump. His spokeswoman commented, saying, "Questioning Mr. Kennedy's health is a hilarious suggestion given his competition." Kennedy is pushing for ballot access as an independent in all 50 states and challenging Trump and Biden to debate.
Now to details on the case of an Air Force airman killed by police. The attorneys says officers burst into the wrong unit at a Florida apartment complex and fatally shot Roger Fortson when they saw he was armed with a gun. The police were responding to a disturbance call. The attorney says Fortson was on a FaceTime call with a woman at the time of the encounter.
The woman says Fortson was alone in his apartment when he heard a knock at the door. He asked who was there, but got no response.
A few minutes later, she says Fortson heard a louder knock but didn't see anyone when he looked through the peephole. The woman said Fortson was concerned and went to retrieve his legally owned gun.
As Fortson walked back through his living room, she says deputies burst through the door, saw that Fortson was armed, and shot him 6 times.
Fortson died at a hospital. The deputy involved in the shooting was placed on administrative leave pending an investigation. Miss Teen USA is resigning from her title. This comes just 2 days after Miss USA stepped down. Miss Teen USA announced her resignation yesterday on Instagram.
She says she's been grappling with the decision for months and that her personal values no longer fully align with the direction of the organization.
It's not clear in what way her values don't align with the organization as yet. Miss Teen USA responded saying they wish her the best.
The resignation comes just 2 days after Miss USA, Noelia Voigt, announced she's giving up her crown. She cited her physical and mental well-being as the reason for stepping down. A Boeing 737 plane carrying 85 people skidded off a runway in Senegal yesterday, injuring 10 people. The Air Senegal flight was operated by Transair. It was heading to neighboring Mali. It had around 80 passengers, 2 pilots, and 4 cabin crew on board.
The injured are being treated at a hospital while the others were taken to a hotel to rest.
No other details were immediately available. Boeing did not respond to a request for comments. And in Washington, D.C., the House wants to extend its own deadline for federal aviation programs. Congress currently has a May 10th deadline to reauthorize administration authorities. That's tomorrow.
The move would give lawmakers until May 17th to make a decision. The draft bill seeks to bolster aviation safety standards and consumer protections. The Senate will need to okay this extension now that it's passed the House.
In related news, the FAA said Wednesday it was delaying requirements for air traffic controllers to get at least 10 hours off between shifts and 12 hours off before a midnight shift. The new rules came after an independent review of fatigue issues called for new minimum rest periods.
The FAA is struggling to address a persistent shortage of air traffic controllers and a series of near-miss incidents, including some attributed to controller error.
Under current rules, controllers handling active airplanes must get an 8 or 9 hour break between shifts in most instances.
Still to come, how is President Biden's Labor Department planning to spend your tax dollars? The acting secretary tells lawmakers why she's re-questioning $13.9 billion when we return.
Shen Yun Creations, the streaming platform from Shen Yun, featuring world-class dance, past programs, and all original music. Masterclasses, behind the scenes, comedy, and more. Explore shenyuncreations.com.
Tangazo hili linahusu njaa. Tarajia kuona watoto wakiwa na njaa katika maeneo haya. Mambo yalikuwa bora kwa miaka mingi. Tuliweza kupigana na njaa na watoto wachache walikufa. Lakini sasa mambo yamebadilika na kwa mabaya zaidi. Hii ni kwa sababu wakati huu ukame umeangamiza zaidi.
Через війни та конфлікти ми мусимо залишати наші домівки і всі наші речі. Ми навіть не маємо їжі. Тому нам потрібна ваша допомога.
Millions of children are fighting to survive due to inequality, conflict, poverty, and the climate crisis. Save the Children is working alongside communities to provide a better life for children. And there's a way you can help. Please call or go online to give just $10 a month, only 33 cents a day. We urgently need 1,000 new monthly donors in the next 30 days to help the children we support around the world. You can help provide food, medicine, care, and protection, plus so much more that a child needs, by calling right now and giving just $10 a month.
Ви можете допомогти голодуючим родинам вижити.
All we need are 1,000 monthly donors in the next 30 days. Please call or go online now with your monthly gift of just $10. Thanks to generous government grants, every dollar you give can have up to 10 times the impact. And when you call with your credit card, we will send you this Save the Children tote bag as a thank you for your support.
Toto kote duniani потребують вашої допомоги.
Your small monthly donation of just $10 could be the reason a child in crisis survives. Please call or go online to hungerstopsnow.org to help save lives today.
The glory of piano masterpieces from the Baroque, Classical, and Romantic periods. New Tang Dynasty Television invites you to join the 2024 NTD International Piano Competition. Together, we preserve and revitalize the art of authentic classical piano music. October 14th to the 19th at the Kaufman Music Center in New York City. Apply now at piano.ntdtv.com.
I'm Arian Pastar in South America, Brazil, and we are NTD News.
How is President Biden's Labor Department planning to spend your tax dollars? We turn now to a hearing on its budget request for fiscal year 2025.
Acting Labor Secretary Julie Su is testifying before the Senate Appropriations Committee. She asked the House for $13.9 billion last month. That's up from $13.6 billion a year prior. Now the Senate will hear what she has to say about the request.
Let's watch.
So you respond in writing. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Capito. Senator Shaheen.
Good morning. Thank you for being here, Acting Secretary Su. I know it won't surprise you to hear that one of the issues I hear frequently about from our small businesses in New Hampshire is their difficulty in finding seasonal workers and using the H-2B visa program. New Hampshire has consistently, for as long as I can remember since COVID, had an unemployment rate that's below 3%. Right now, the March adjusted rate was 2.6%. A year ago, it was below 2%. We can't find the workers we need, and in a state where we rely on tourism, it's our second largest industry, we need those seasonal workers. We need those H-2B visa workers. And one of the things that we're hearing is that, as you know, before employers can apply to the Department of Homeland Security for the visa, they have to be approved by the Department of Labor to certify that there are no U.S. workers who can fill those jobs. They've had trouble getting that certification because of processing delays at the Department of Labor. What are you doing to address that? And what do we need to do to adjust this budget to make sure you have the funding you need to help make sure we can approve the people who need these workers to run their businesses?
Yeah, thank you very much, Senator. So I understand the importance of the H-2B program in your state and in many others and in multiple industries across the country. This is a program that has grown in demand. In fact, in the first 4 days of January of this year, we had an application for more visas, 4 times the number of visas than the maximum number. So recognize just how just how dire the need is. I have also focused, since I came as Deputy Secretary in 2021, on everything we can do to improve our operational, the functioning of how we process. And I have heard that there have been improvements in processing. I'm very happy to talk to you further about those who continue to struggle in your home state, Senator. But one thing I will say is that the way that the Department of Labor is funded to process these claims has no relationship to the number of claims that we get. So as the number has gone up, we have remained flat funded.
That's why I'm asking what you need in this budget in order to move those approvals, because I think it's a two-part process. One is getting workers certified, but the other is we don't have enough H-2B visas in the program. We're looking at a nationwide unemployment rate, as you pointed out yourself, which is a good problem to have, but we're not producing enough workers to fill the jobs that we're creating.
Yeah.
And we got to figure out how to do that.
Yeah.
And DOL's role in ensuring that there are enough H-2B visas available to employers is really critical.
Yes, yes, and my team has been very hard at work to try to address that. Our budget request does include $1.8 million to add staffing for processing. Keep in mind that is because our overall budget request comes in under the Fiscal Responsibility Act.
Right.
I mean, I'm very happy to explore with you other options. One that has been floated in the past is having the Department of Labor get some of the fees that are submitted in order to again, level up when the numbers increase, but I would be very happy to work with you on other creative ideas to make sure that we can process.
Thank you, I appreciate that. In New Hampshire, we have a federal prison called FCI Berlin that has really struggled with recruiting and retaining qualified corrections officers and other employees that they need. And part of the problem is that there's a lack of parity in salaries that are offered by local agencies and firms who compete with companies in the region, and FCI Berlin falls within the rest of U.S. pay locality, and the locality pay program has simply failed to keep pace with local salaries in the area. Now, we've been told that establishing a new pay area for the Berlin micropolitan statistical area would help address this issue. However, the Bureau of Labor Statistics has said that the current wage survey model is not capable of producing reliable salary estimates for micropolitan statistical areas or rural counties. So how can we encourage the Bureau of Labor Statistics to explore ways to address this? Because we have so many rural areas, not only in New Hampshire, but across the country, where this is a huge problem, where people are competing with an area like, well, we get thrown in with Boston, and there's a big difference between what's happening in New Hampshire with pay and what's happening in the Boston area. So what can you tell us that the Bureau of Labor Statistics could do to help us deal with this problem?
Thank you, Senator. This is definitely an issue that we are seeing, as you noted, and as the chairwoman noted. This is a moment in which there's a tight labor market, and it is resulting in workers with more choice and employers needing to recruit and retain, and including competing on wages. This has had some positive impact in terms of workers and their wages, especially one thing we've seen since President Biden came into office is real wages rise, especially for low and middle income Americans. And that means more money in the pockets of working families. But to your point, I'm happy to work with you to figure out what we need
and
to
I
do with
appreciate,
this.
we want workers to do better, but the federal government has to keep up with that pay scale as well. And right now, we're not doing that. So thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Senator Shaheen. Senator Collins.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Acting Secretary Sue, in December, the Department of Labor proposed significant and controversial changes to the national apprenticeship system. Among other issues, the proposed rules would eliminate apprenticeship programs that base program completion on the mastery of skills rather than an explicit time requirement. Competency-based apprenticeship programs are a very important part of the system in Maine, particularly in the areas of healthcare, information technology, and education. In Maine, we found that competency-based programs often have a higher success rate than time-based or hybrid programs. Over the past 4 years, the percentage of apprentices that failed to complete either hybrid or time-based apprenticeship programs was almost double those of competency programs. So I don't understand why the administration made the decision to remove competency-based approaches to apprenticeships. Could you explain what the rationale was?
Thank you, full committee ranking member Collins. It's good to see you. So as I think there's wide agreement here that registered apprenticeships are a proven and effective model of helping employers get the skilled and competent employees that they need, and to create opportunity for people who might not otherwise have seen themselves in jobs or be able to stop what they're doing and get the training that they need for another job. We know that the earn and learn model works for that. Since this administration has been in office, we have expanded those apprenticeship programs in numerous industries, including all of the ones that you mentioned, in healthcare, in IT, and in education. We now have teacher apprenticeships in over 30 states. And we need to continue to expand that. That's part of our budget request. I think if you're referring to our proposed rule about this, our goal is not to limit the options for expanding registered apprenticeships. It is to make sure that those programs continue to have the standards that have made them so successful overall. And to make sure that when somebody finishes with an apprenticeship program, the employer knows that what they're going to get is somebody who has all the capabilities, including the experience and experiential learning that is needed to actually succeed in the job, to perform it, but also to keep themselves safe and healthy while doing it.
But the way that you do that is to measure their competency, not require an arbitrary amount of time. I know I have just a little time, so let me switch to a different issue. First, very quickly, I agree with the comments that Senator Shaheen made on H-2B visas. Those are absolutely critical in my state, where 10 times the state's population visits Maine. And I hope that you will be recommending to the Department of Homeland Security that it make available the full additional 64,716 H-2B visas for this fiscal year. I want...
Do you ever wake up and realize your life has no purpose?
Do I have a death wish? Morgan asked. Maybe I did. I thought this would be our final run ever. We had made millions and millions of dollars, but God had other plans.
Peter Lowe, the one-time drug dealer turned pastor, along with 2 others, will be executed at 12 midnight local time.
The next day, something strange happened. Someone came up to me and gave me this flyer about Jesus.
You can be in heaven, or you can be in hell. The choice is yours.
We gonna walk straight out of here, pretend to be the media.
This pathetic maggot got caught, tried to escape my prison. Nobody escapes my prison.
He's a changed person. He's a new man.
I found Christ in here, and he forgave me.
I found Christ too.
My name is Peter Lowe, and I will be executed in 2 hours. Why am I being executed, you ask?
Jesus is for free, and salvation is a gift. Do you believe in Jesus?
Do you know that Cars for Compassion is the best way to donate your car? Through this non-profit program, you can not only help us keep bringing the world independent and daringly truthful journalism, but also significantly impact the life of somebody who needs a vehicle. The Epoch Times fights misinformation and big tech censorship by being independent and unbound to advertisers. Every single contribution to Cars for Compassion is a powerful endorsement of our unwavering mission. All you have to do is go to carsforcompassion.org and let us know about your car, and we'll schedule a pickup time and email you a tax-deductible receipt. To do this, just click the link below, support truth, compassion, and hope. Donate your car right now at www.carsforcompassion.org.
My graduation was something I will never forget.
people like you and me sometimes may have doubts in ourselves, but I feel that everything's possible.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
I'm Iris Tao at the White House, and we are NTD.
Next, investing in worker protection, apprenticeship, equity, and unemployment insurance modernization. The Labor Department proposes its 2025 budget to the Senate today.
Acting Secretary of the U.S. Department of Labor, Julie Su, is testifying. She asked the House for $13.9 billion last month.
We'll tune into that Senate hearing now.
Is because the Department of Labor is doing our job. We are exposing these practices, we are putting a stop to them, we are issuing penalties and using the full authority that we have, not just penalties, but using hot goods and other ways to ensure that goods that are touched by child labor are not, companies are not able to profit from it. So our budget request includes an overall increase of $35 million for the wage and hour division, with $7.5 million of that for child labor. We also have to keep in mind that our solicitor's office, the attorneys who advise on cases, who brings litigation to drive home the seriousness of enforcement, are also funded, and so both of those are part of the funding request, and we simply cannot stop the scourge of what we see, which has already been mentioned, right? 13-year-olds working on the kill floor of a meatpacking plant on the night shift with dangerous chemicals, or a 16-year-old who recently died at a sawmill. It's unconscionable that this is happening, and the Department of Labor often stands as the most important bulwark against those kinds of practices. And so our budget request is meant to stay within the bounds of the Fiscal Responsibility Act, but also increase our capacity to address this.
So you're asking for funds for both the Wage and Hour Division and the Office of Solicitor working together to combat this. Thank you. I think that's so important. Another issue that I've been very focused on is combating wage theft. Workers deserve to be paid the full wages they earned, but unfortunately some companies in the country are denying workers tens of billions of dollars in hard-earned pay each year. I actually introduced the Wage Theft Prevention and Wage Recovery Act to put money back into workers' pockets by protecting their right to fair and timely pay and strengthening accountability for wage theft violations. I'm going to keep working on that, but I wanted to ask you today, what is the Department of Labor doing right now to fight wage theft?
So this is one of the most important things that we do, is to make sure that every worker gets a just day's pay for a hard day's work. We see violations of basic failure to pay the minimum wage. The majority of violations we see when it comes to wage theft is in overtime, so workers not being paid when they work over 40 hours. And we have, our investigators are in the field every single day uncovering these kinds of violations. It should be, I think, obvious to many that for employers who choose to violate the basic labor laws, they will go to great lengths to prevent those practices from being found. And so it's very important for the department to be able to gain the trust of workers, to learn about what is going on, to be able to do inspections at the workplace, to, for example, be able to see whether records are being kept and what exactly is going on in the workplace. For those employers who've decided that it's cheaper to break the law and the chances of getting caught are slim, and the consequences, even if they do get caught, are minimal, we need to tell them that that is not the proper way we're not going to allow those kinds of violations. And it's also very important, we hear this often, is from other employers in that industry who are complying with the law, need to know that the Department of Labor will help them ensure a level playing field.
So there's fair competition. Exactly. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Murray. Next, Senator Hyde-Smith.
Thank you, Chairwoman Baldwin and Ranking Member Capito, and thank you for being here also as well, Acting Secretary Sue. Mississippi, like the rest of the country, and that we've all had these discussions, is facing a pretty tough labor crisis. And the widening gap between jobs available to Mississippians and the career routes being chosen. Despite there being many positions offering significantly above average wages, there's a huge shortage in our state of plumbers, electricians, diesel mechanics, utility linemen, HVAC technicians, precision manufacturing, and many, many skilled jobs. Without more people pursuing these jobs, our workforce participation rate will continue to decline. Average income increases will stall, and our economic health will suffer as we struggle to reach our economic potential. But from my conversations with training providers, state officials, community organizers, and employers, this shortage is not the result of a lack of opportunity or training resources. Rather, it is largely an issue of awareness and perception with these jobs. Many people exploring their career options are not aware of the high wages, good benefits, and the long-term stability these occupations provide. It's almost a little bit of a stigmatism. And if they are aware, there is a misguided view these occupations are less desirable. And that's really, really sad. But what is your stance on the importance of funding or supporting efforts to increase awareness of these jobs and their benefits and to decrease any negative perceptions that may surround them?
Yeah. Thank you so much, Senator. I also understand tomorrow's your birthday, so happy early birthday.
Thank you very much.
I could not agree more with what you are saying, and I see that also when I travel the country, that we do have to overcome a certain perception, both of the quality of the jobs, and again, in this moment, when there are such historic investments in infrastructure, in manufacturing, in clean energy, in good jobs in every community, I think the reality is that these are good quality jobs. The other part of this is that, one of the things I hear is that we need to do a better job of also aligning our educational system with this message. Too many young people hear that, your only path, the only right path is to go to a four-year college. And I meet with people across the country who say that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to work with my hands. I wanted to gain a trade. And so making sure that our overall, those of us who are trusted messengers to young people are also saying there is another path, and this is a viable path, is very, very important. I hear from people who are let's say they're finishing an apprenticeship program or they're in a career trade, who say, if I had known that this was available to me years ago, I could have started on this secure path with a good job, with benefits, with retirement a long time ago. So we do have work to do there. I am very anxious to work with you on that. It's something that we're working on across the administration, something that, for example, Secretary Cardona and I talk about as well. And everywhere I go, I try to raise awareness about that issue. I do think the added investments in actual training programs that reach communities that have been left out in the past would also help to create a climate in which people understand that these are real options for them.
Yeah, and we have great training centers. I mean, we're not lacking that at all. It's just getting the students in there with the pride of being in there. And I know that's kind of hard to buy. But in addition to getting the word out about the potential careers, it's also important to properly train, and I'm pleased that the department is seeking an increase in the strengthening community college training grant programs. And for fiscal year 2025, we have some great community college system, and it does an outstanding job of targeting specific needs for our state. And many of the community colleges in Mississippi continue to work with companies to fill the training gaps in manufacturing and the technical jobs so we can continue to produce a ready, well-trained workforce. But will you commit to making sure these grants continue to go to deserving community colleges in rural states so they can continue to fill the workforce gaps across all sectors?
Yes, absolutely. And our budget request does include a modest increase in our Strengthened Community College grants, and 100% they are key to the overall workforce system, and one way that young people and mid-career people hear about opportunities that they might not have had and have the ability to gain the skills in the classroom that match the skills they're going to need in the workplace. 100%.
Okay, I'm over my time. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Hyde-Smith. Senator Schatz.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Secretary, for being here, and thanks for your great work and the way you engage with Congress, even when members disagree with you. It's always substantive and respectful, and I just wanted to observe that it's not that easy to do, so good job on that. I just want to quickly agree with Senator Murray about the Office of the Solicitor, especially as it relates to child labor. We can disagree about a lot. But the law already exists, and it is not sufficiently enforced. You've got around 100 meritorious cases that we are unable to prosecute per month, and there's
For round-the-clock original news coverage, visit us at ntd.com or download our NTD app.
And stay with us. We'll bring you more news in the next 2 hours.
Faith, rich in beauty and tradition, uplifting the mind and body, persevering through decades of persecution. Watch our special coverage of the 2024 World Falun Day Parade live from New York City, starting 11 a.m. Eastern Time, here on NTD.
I started having lumbar pain, and the pain was terrific. Called the number. She was asking me very thorough questions, and it was like a done deal.
You have a pain on the back, and the pain on the back goes towards your hip, and then goes to the side of the leg, side of the calf, and the foot. And the foot is numb.
And he pointed, he says, if we don't correct this now, you will be in pain the rest of your life.
Carol was wheeled across the parking lot to the on-campus imaging center for updated MRIs.
Immediately after that, left that building, got back over here. He was in there and had the results of that on the screen.
We're gonna go clean this, and this. That is going to get you almost brand new, okay?
All right, back to my active self.
Yeah. No pain.
No pain.
No pain here.
No.
No pain here.
No.
No pain on the foot.
No.
No pain on the side.
No.
No pain on the side.
No.
No pain on the butt.
No. When I came out of that, they said my whole face, everything was different. I am a new person. Oh, a new person, Dr. Bonatti.
Oh, you did.
And you told me I would be. I said, I'm not in pain. I'm in awe. And I'm going home restored.
Bonatti succeeds where others fail. For more stories like these and the rest of our program, check out American Medicine Today, featuring cutting-edge medical and science innovators and a medical professional's insight on political and social issues plaguing our nation and healthcare. American Medicine Today, Saturdays 6 and Sundays at 9 on NTD Television and other streaming platforms.
According to ancient Chinese medicine, purslane is considered a medicinal herb and is used to help lower cholesterol, improve vascular functions, and prevent diabetes. Perilla seeds can nourish the lungs and spleen. It is used to treat asthma and improve pulmonary functions. Puritang green vegetable omega-3 is made from purslane and perilla seeds from Hwangmae Mountain in South Korea. It contains over 90% of omega-3, 6, 7, and 9. The highest concentration possible without chemical additives. The soft gel is made of natural seaweed. It is 100% organic and vegan. Both adults and children can take it with peace of mind. Ancient recipes were passed down from heaven to bring prosperity and longevity. Puritang green vegetable omega-3.
Welcome to NTD News Today.
Here are today's top stories.
Israel responds to President Biden's threat to cut off military supplies. Find out more about the Israel-Hamas war.
Former President Trump files a major motion against the gag order in his hush money case. We have the latest on the trial. What's the true cost of junk fees? Senate Banking Committee members grilling industry players in financial services and rental housing.
Some Olympic athletes lose confidence in the World Anti-Doping Agency. The body is under fire for its handling of failed drug tests in Chinese swimming.
Serbian authorities arrested a number of Falun Gong practitioners ahead of the visit by Chinese regime leader Xi Jinping. A closer look at the cross-country persecution.
This is NTD News Today, live from our NTD Global Headquarters. Here are Stephania Cox and Chris Beers.
The Biden administration is working on a report for Congress this week on whether Israel has violated international law during the war in Gaza.
This comes as President Biden last night warned Israel that the U.S. will cut off weapon supplies if Israel starts the major ground offensive in Rafah.
It will not be transmitted today. We continue to work to finalize the report. We expect to deliver it in the very near future in the coming days.
Israeli officials are responding after Biden threatened to cut off supplies of weapons. Israel's ambassador to the United Nations called this, quote, a very disappointing decision, even frustrating.
The country's defense minister said, "We have no choice. We have no other country. We will do whatever is necessary."
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu reposted an earlier speech in which he said, if Israel is forced to stand alone, Israel will stand alone. Israel's war and security cabinets will be meeting this evening.
The tension comes as the Houthi terrorist group in Yemen said they launched 2 missile attacks in the Gulf of Aden and hit 2 container ships. The ships didn't report any damage.
And former President Trump is in court for another day of his New York trial.
Here's what he said as he entered the courtroom this morning.
I just want to let you know that we've just filed a major motion in the appellate division concerning the absolutely unconstitutional gag order, where I'm essentially not allowed to talk to you about anything meaningful that's going on in the case, and many good things are going on with the case. It shouldn't have been filed. See, we have so many police down here, New York's finest, and they are New York's finest. They're just told what to do, but they don't have them at Columbia, they don't have them at NYU or any other places. This is like an armed camp down here, and you have nothing to worry about. Believe me. Your problem is from the left, it's not from the right. Big problem from the left. It's from within our country. That's a bigger, in my opinion, a bigger danger than China or Russia.
Adult film actress Stormy Daniels is back on the witness stand today as she faces cross-examination by defense attorneys.
Trump's lawyers grilled her on her motive for accepting the so-called hush money. They questioned her credibility and claimed she makes up phony stories about intimate encounters.
The defense attorneys didn't focus on the alleged intimate encounter between Daniels and Trump. Instead, they focused on Daniels' financial motivations by bringing up her book contract, her tour, and the merchandise she sells.
Daniels denied asking for money from Trump, and she accused the defense attorneys of trying to trick her. For analysis of the Georgia Appeals Court decision to review the Fani Willis disqualification ruling, we're joined by Mike Leon, NTD News contributor and host of the Can We Please Talk news commentary podcast. Mike, great to see you. This appeals court could rule to disqualify Willis and her team from overseeing Trump's election interference case in Georgia. How would that affect this case?
Hey, Chris, good to see you. Long time no see. I saw you just yesterday. So this could affect it. This could affect it immensely because right now the Georgia Court of Appeals could hear this case within the next 6 months. So that effectively puts it at a date of November 1st. And so with that, this trial with the former president and the other 19 co-defendants, I know 4 have pleaded out, but it's not going to happen in 2024. It pretty much kills this case actually happening before the election calendar. And remember, at the central core of this is Fani Willis's inappropriate relationship with Nathan Wade, who she hired as special prosecutor for this case. Judge Scott McAfee, who's presiding over the case, he ruled that the relationship is inappropriate, but deemed that she could still prosecute the case. The Trump attorneys and other of the co-defendants are appealing this, and now the Georgia Court of Appeals is going to listen to it. And it doesn't look like the trial in the original 19 charges with 19 defendants, that have been charged is going to happen in 2024.
Mike, I feel like we're having deja vu because we were talking a lot about a lot of these same questions a few months ago or weeks ago with the previous Fani Willis hearings. If Willis is disqualified, Donald Trump would likely use that to his political advantage. What could he say?
Well, I mean, look, let's be honest for a second. Regardless of how you feel about former President Trump, he has repeatedly said that these district attorneys have been out to get him because they've campaigned on that front. Fani Willis has campaigned on getting former President Donald Trump. I've spoken with former DOJ prosecutors and criminal defense attorneys, and all of them have said Fani Willis made this case personal. Now, I didn't know she took it to the level of having a special prosecutor that she had an inappropriate relationship with. And that's at the core of this. This is all of Fani Willis is doing. This is all of her fault because she had this special inappropriate relationship with this prosecutor. And now it's really muddied the waters where the judge in this case, Scott McAfee, said the relationship was inappropriate. And now the Court of Appeals, it only took one judge to look at this case and say, yes, let's hear it because of what the Trump team, his attorneys are bringing in terms of the appeal motion. So it only took one judge to sway, and that one judge has said, yes, let's listen to this because at the height of this is an inappropriate relationship for sure.
What effect would a Willis disqualification have on the public perception of Trump and all of these legal cases that he's facing right now?
Well, I mean, it would continue to solidify what he has been saying about some of these folks like Alvin Bragg in Manhattan, Letitia James in New York, and now Fani Willis, that they're all kind of conspiring together out to get him, right? And again, this is a former president of the United States. This is one thing a former attorney told me as a prosecutor. He told me, if you're going to go after a former president and it's going to be charges that you're going to bring against them, you can't make any mistakes, right? Everybody knows the football analogy, Chris. You can't fumble the ball, right, if you're trying to go in to score a touchdown. And Fani Willis has fumbled of her own volition here because, again, she had this inappropriate relationship. Trump didn't tell her to have an inappropriate relationship. She had this inappropriate relationship. And now it's really muddied the waters in terms of her being able to prosecute this case. And her business is out there on Front Street, as the kids like to say, in terms of this case. And I think for Donald Trump, it's going to only help him on the campaign trail.
And in closing here, Mike, let's look at Donald Trump's so-called hush money trial in New York City. Adult actress Stormy Daniels is testifying today. What are you anticipating with that and its impact on Trump's campaign?
Well, again, on the campaign, I don't anticipate much. Obviously, he's got his core base that thinks that, this trial means nothing. I'll be honest, I kind of live a little bit in that universe only because the trial, is not televised. These charges are over 7-8 years old. The statute of limitations on some of these charges. What could outcome-wise come from all this is potential, probation, a misdemeanor. He's a former president of the United States. He's going on 80 years old. He has no prior criminal history. So the outcome of this is something that, Americans everywhere would say, this is not the trial that you would be focused on, right? It would be more of the January 6th stuff or the classified documents case. So I think for this case specifically, the prosecution has outlined, you heard former National Enquirer David Pecker, the chief editor there, talk about what Trump has done, Michael Cohen's testimony, and now you're getting Stormy Daniels' testimony, which is, a little bit of more of, an inappropriate relationship, right? And so does that move the needle on the jury to find him guilty on this? I don't foresee any of that. But I think in terms of public polling and opinion, this case hasn't swayed anybody in terms of one way or the other.
All right, Mike Leon, host of Can We Please Talk? Thank you so much.
Thanks, Chris.
Coming up, the U.S. could restrict imports of some China-made vehicles, adding to the growing list of Chinese products under scrutiny due to national security concerns. Don Mott joins us to report.
Just ahead of wildfire season in California, major insurance carriers are pulling out, leaving hundreds of thousands of homes uninsured. How state lawmakers are trying to solve the problem here on NTD News Today.
More than just beautiful dance. It's a touch of the divine. More than just legends. It's the beautiful culture and wisdom of China before communism. More than just a performance. It's an experience that awakens the soul.
Lincoln Center, NJ-PAC, State Theater, Purchase, and Stamford. Starting March 28th. Tickets at shenyun.com.
If you're watching this, I didn't make it. Thanks to people like you and the American Heart Association, my family never had to see this video. I was a healthy 47-year-old, no symptoms, but then my doctor discovered I had a bad heart valve that was beyond repair. The scariest day of my life was when I was sitting on a gurney as I looked and my wife was at my side and my kids had me surrounded. Deep down, you know, this could be it. This could be all there is.
Not having him around for Riley to grow up with and have that papa figure in his life, that would have been hard.
This little heart valve did something really big. It saved my life. I wouldn't be here today without it. The research for this heart valve was funded by the American Heart Association. And that's why I'm asking you to become a monthly donor for just $19 a month. When you do, you'll help fund the next medical breakthrough that could save your life or the life of someone you love. You'll also provide life-saving CPR training and help certify hospitals to give the best care to those who have had a heart attack or stroke. When you give $19 a month, we'll send you a t-shirt just like this one. From the moment you put it on, you'll help raise awareness for heart disease and stroke. Since my surgery, I had a son get married. I had a daughter graduate high school. I had another daughter give birth to a precious boy. I would have missed all that. And that's why it's personal for me.
We're very thankful for everyone who is a donor because it gives us more time.
Every 40 seconds, someone has a heart attack. The next person you help save could be someone you love or even you. Become a monthly donor today by calling or going to helpheart.org because it's personal.
The tempting online world is encroaching on our campus. Is unplugging cables and confiscating phones the solution to protect our children? No, we just need a clean multimedia platform. Join Ganjing Campus to leverage premium channel features, professional development courses, and kindness event toolkits tailored for teachers. Build a truly positive and interactive classroom community. Foster a pure and delightful learning environment for children.
Join us on NTD Good Morning because we want you to stay informed.
Kickstart your morning with the latest you missed overnight.
Right, and don't forget that inspiration.
Absolutely, so let's shine some light on the good news too.
Tune in every weekday morning to NTD News.
And joining us now is NTD's Business Matters host, Don Mott, to give us the latest updates from the tech and business world.
What do you have for us today, Don?
All right, yeah, so a couple of updates real quick here, and let me start with what Gina Raimondo said yesterday. So the U.S. could actually ban Chinese-made connected vehicles. So these are smart cars that are connected to the internet, or the U.S. could impose restrictions on them. So this is according to our Commerce Secretary, Gina Raimondo. Yesterday, she made comments, and it was the first indication on a ban that could be on the table here. So the Commerce Department is reviewing public comments on a probe the Biden administration launched in February into whether Chinese vehicle imports pose national security risks. And Raimondo said that the agency needs to digest all the data and figure out what action is needed to be taken here. She said the department could take extreme action, for example, saying no Chinese connected vehicles in the United States, or some other measures other responses, including safeguards and guardrails. So Raimondo said she was concerned about Chinese connected vehicles, which could collect massive amounts of data on Americans, including potentially patterns of driving, who the drivers are, and what they say even in their car and where they're going. So she's adding that the U.S. needs to take the threat much more seriously than it is.
Fascinating. So next up, Disney and Warner Brothers are both offering a new streaming bundle. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, on a lighter note here, so Disney, starting this summer, and Warner Brothers Discovery, they will offer a bundle of the Disney Plus, Hulu, and Max streaming services in the United States. So the company announced the plan yesterday, and customers will be able to sign up on any of the 3 websites and choose from an ad-free or ad-supported plan. So no prices were disclosed just yet. Both Disney and Warner Brothers are trying to build their streaming businesses as customers ditch traditional cable packages. But as the number of streaming apps increased, consumers are complaining about having to sign up to multiple subscriptions here. So this effort from Disney and Warner Brothers could be an effort to address just that.
Yeah, I imagine they would have something to catch up to. I mean, Netflix started the whole streaming services thing online, and everyone else kind of followed in their wake.
Yeah, so I was talking to the morning hosts on this, and Evelyn pointed out something really interesting that I found, that Marvel and DC movies could be under one roof with this service.
Whoa, I don't know about that, Don.
I mean, that could be a selling point.
It totally could be.
Yeah.
All right, Don Ma, thank you.
Thank you.
Several major insurers have pulled out of California's homeowners insurance market. They cite increased costs related to the state's growing wildfire risks. Carriers have either stopped issuing new policies or announced they won't renew existing ones. Here's the story.
Landing in front of them. In recent years, thousands of California homes have been destroyed by wildfires. Just ahead of this year's wildfire season, carriers like Allstate, Farmers, and State Farm are pulling out of the California market. An insurance services spokesman says the problem has been building for years.
Well, the insurance market right now is in chaos, and part of it is in chaos is that for years insurers have not had adequate rates. In the last 10 years, they lost an average of paid $1.13 for every dollar they took in. So insurers need to get adequate rates. Then they can start reviewing the policies and the mitigation efforts that people take and price them appropriately.
Ed Bratt lives in an area of Oakland Hills which hasn't been affected by recent wildfires. He was recently notified that his insurance company isn't renewing the policy he's had for 25 years.
So I received a letter from my insurer, the same insurer that we've had since I bought this house in 1999, saying they were not going to renew our policy. They said we lived in a high fire area and they were not renewing it.
Bratt is a retiree and worries he'll be unable to sell his home if it can no longer be insured.
If I can't sell it, apparently now you can't sell houses because they can't get insurance. I mean, it's just a disaster that's unfolding here.
The state legislature is trying to fix the problem through reforms, but it has put the insurance industry and consumer advocates at odds. California's insurance commissioner is trying to overhaul home insurance regulations by giving insurers freedom to raise premiums. Consumer advocates worry the method for estimating the cost of future fires will not be transparent, leaving homeowners with excessive premiums.
I wish the insurance commissioner and the insurance companies could work out what's wrong here, why this has suddenly come to a head.
One study says the cost of wildfires in California between 2017 to 2021 was over $117 billion.
Are you paying more than you need to be to your bank or for rental housing? Lawmakers on the Senate Banking Committee want to know.
Let's listen in.
Senate Committee on Banking, Housing, and Urban Affairs comes to order. Senator Scott, welcome. The 3 witnesses, welcome. Costs are far too high for Americans. Corporations are finding more and more ways to raise those costs to boost their own profits. We've talked about how every time Americans go to a grocery store, they pay for corporate stock buybacks and executive bonuses. Last week, we looked at how companies use the latest technologies to jack up prices for consumers. This week, we look at junk fees. These are surprise, although not that much of a surprise anymore, often last-minute charges that drive up the cost of products, have no justification or connection to anything other than their quest for profits. Think about that hotel room you booked that has a bunch of mysterious charges at the end. Or that time you paid your credit card bill over the phone so you wouldn't be late, but were charged a convenience fee. The only thing that fee is convenient for is the bank's bottom line. Or let's say you're looking for an apartment, you finally find one with affordable rent, but when you get a look at the lease, you realize that between the maintenance fee and the trash fee and the mysterious convenience fee, the actual rent you'll be charged each month is out of your budget now. These hidden add-ons, surcharges, fees, they're all junk fees. They're extra costs that inflate the price you pay but add no real value. They're often hidden. They're only disclosed when it's time to pay. Consumers know what they can afford. That's why we all shop based on price. But when the real price is hidden through undisclosed junk fees, how are consumers supposed to find the lowest price? The answer is they often can't. We hear a lot about personal responsibility and consumer financial literacy in this committee, but no amount of financial education is going to protect someone from a tactic that's meant to purposely hide the real purpose of a product or service. They hide the price. That's the whole point. Junk fees make a mockery of free and fair markets. $32 here, $45 there. Sprinkle in a $10 service fee before you know it, a product you thought was the most affordable option actually is the most expensive. Without junk fees, consumers would keep more of their hard-earned money. They'd be able to better find the lowest price, which is how you really should promote competition to bring costs down. That's why the CFPB has taken long overdue steps to reduce costs and fees and make them more transparent. CFPB took a major step toward reducing costs for consumers when it issued its credit card late fee rule. Credit card late fees are the most costly and frequently applied junk fee. According to one report, 1 in 5 adult Americans, an estimated 52 million people, paid a credit card fee last year, credit card late fee last year. By law, credit card late fees are supposed to be reasonable and proportional. That's what the law says, reasonable and proportional to the costs that companies incur for late payments. So be clear, there are massive trillion-dollar Wall Street companies. The idea that you are missing your payment due date by a day or two is imposing some huge cost on the credit card company is just patently ridiculous. Sure enough, CFPB found that credit card companies are charging consumers more than 5 times their cost. By 2022, that meant credit card companies charged consumers $14.5 billion in late fees. That's up $3 billion over the previous year, and who knows what next year will be. The new action by the CFPB will lower credit card late fees that the largest credit card issuers can charge down to just $8 if it stands. This will save Americans more than $10 billion in fees each year. Of course, the biggest banks oppose it. They trot out the same old complaints we always hear every time anyone tries to do anything that might just cut into Wall Street profits, just even a little bit. They whined in 2009 when we passed the Card Act to lower some fees and increase transparency. Surprise, surprise, the sky didn't fall. Consumers still have access to credit. And of course, credit card companies still make billions in profits. Of course, it's not just credit card late fees. Junk fees are piled on top of all sorts of services and products. CFPB found that some auto loan services charge $1,000 in repossession fees, almost 3 times the average repossession costs. Unsurprisingly, some owners never recovered their cars because $1,000 is an amount many working families cannot afford out of the blue. Rental housing. Junk fees that are added to the advertised rent can make the actual rent paid unaffordable. We've seen cases where the advertised rent grows hundreds of dollars a month once all the fees are added on top of the rent. Application fees, utility deposits, trash fees, fees for the young man in my office pays a fee for the honor of paying his rent. Fee after fee after fee after fee. Imagine a family getting approved for a place they think they can afford, but then getting several $100s of surprise add-on fees when they go to sign their lease. Most renters can't afford these massive price increases, but they may not have an option once they've paid all the upfront costs and set their move-in date. Be clear. The entire point of these fees is to hide the true cost. They could just list the rent for what it is, but they don't, because they want to make it impossible for families to actually, as they survey where they want to move, to actually find the lowest rent. It's not a free, fair market. It's a rigged system. We need to continue working to expose and crack down on those fees that are raising costs in Americans to push already high corporate profits even higher. We need to defend the CFPB's work that has refunded $260 million to consumers for unlawful junk fees, already saved that money and will save consumers billions in the future. Corporations raising these prices have armies of lobbyists to fight for them. At the beginning, I said people, when they go into the grocery store to shop, they're paying for stock buybacks and bonuses for executives. Not too different in this world, in the banking world, in the apartment world, in the car repossession world. Our job is to stand up to those corporate lobbyists to work for everyone else so that consumers can actually keep their hard-earned money. Sir Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you to the witnesses for being with us today. At last week's hearing, we heard from my colleagues on the other side of the aisle that the high prices Americans are paying as they struggle to put food on the table and face mounting debt are the result of greedflation and shrinkflation. And today, it's a similar story. This time, the boogeyman is so-called junk fees, and these fees are to blame for the obvious economic pain Americans are feeling. Not skyrocketing inflation, not increasing global instability, and certainly not the slush fund known as the Inflation Reduction Act. Clearly, there is no shortage of finger-pointing for the failure of Bidenomics, or as I like to call it, brokenomics, because that's what's happening to the average American family. My Democratic colleagues and this administration have deployed a herd of scapegoats to deflect blame for the economic harm they have brought upon American households. Instead of taking responsibility for the real consequences of unchecked spending and increased regulation across the economy, the Biden administration would rather throw a towel over the mirror and say, "Not me." Sure, it might be easy or even politically expedient to slap a label of junk or excessive on additional costs for legitimate products and services in an effort to villainize business in America so that they themselves do not have to face the reality that Bidenomics, brokenomics, is causing devastation after devastation after devastation upon the shoulders of the American people. But it is long past time that Democrats stop playing political games with price controls and trying to micromanage the business operations, especially when the real outcome of these feel-good games is reducing access to credit and limiting economic opportunity for those who need it most. That's why I introduced a CRA resolution to overturn the CFPB's credit card penalty fee rule. Let's be clear about what this rule will mean for American families. It will result in lower credit limits and higher interest rates for borrowers. It will result in new fees for services that are currently provided free of charge. Finally, and perhaps worst of all, this rule will cut off access to credit and stymie financial inclusion for the families who need it most. Sadly, I wasn't surprised when the CFPB finalized the credit card penalty fee just days before the President's State of the Union address. That's the politics of this administration. Actions that sound good as talking points, just like the billions of dollars of student loan forgiveness, but they are truly divorced from economic reality. And it's not just the financial sector. It's everything, everywhere, all at once. That's what astounds me. This administration's rhetorical hypocrisy. The White House has claimed that a junk fee is a charge designed either to confuse or deceive consumers. Ironically enough, two of the recent targets within the committee's jurisdiction, overdraft and credit card late fees, are two of the most highly regulated and transparent business practices in any industry. The credit card late fees and overdraft fees we are discussing here today are in fact not illegal and are heavily regulated. And while we are on the subject of regulation,
tangazo hili linahusu njaa. Tarajia kuona watoto wakiwa na njaa katika maeneo haya. Mambo yalikuwa bora kwa miaka mingi. Tuliweza kupigana na njaa na watoto wachache walikufa. Lakini sasa mambo yamebadilika na kwa mabaya zaidi. Hii ni kwa sababu wakati huu ukame umeangamiza zaidi.
Через війни та конфлікти ми мусимо залишати наші домівки і всі наші речі. Ми навіть не маємо їжі. Тому нам потрібна ваша допомога.
Millions of children are fighting to survive due to inequality, conflict, poverty, and the climate crisis. Save the Children is working alongside communities to provide a better life for children. And there's a way you can help. Please call or go online to give just $10 a month, only 33 cents a day. We urgently need 1,000 new monthly donors in the next 30 days to help the children we support around the world. You can help provide food, medicine, care, and protection, plus so much more that a child needs, by calling right now and giving just $10 a month.
Ви можете допомогти голодуючим родинам вижити.
All we need are 1,000 monthly donors in the next 30 days. Please call or go online now with your monthly gift of just $10. Thanks to generous government grants, every dollar you give can have up to 10 times the impact. And when you call with your credit card, we will send you this Save the Children tote bag as a thank you for your support.
Watoto kote duniani
потребують вашої допомоги.
Your small monthly donation of just $10 could be the reason a child in crisis survives. Please call or go online to hungerstopsnow.org to help save lives today.
We are only 80 years removed from countries that killed 60 to 70 million people intentionally. And we have people being like, oh, it can't happen here. Yeah, it can, and it might.
These people, they're not interested in the facts. They're not interested in anything except crushing people that are in their way.
There needs to be a formal deprogramming of the cult members.
A strong church can stop this.
The 2024 NTD 9th International Chinese Vocal Competition is scheduled to take place at Merkin Hall, Kaufman Music Center in New York from September 18th to 21st. The competition specially invites vocalists from the world-famous Shen Yun Performing Arts to serve as judges. The prestigious Gold Award is $10,000. Chinese vocal artists aged 18 to 50 are welcome to register.
We're in the nation's capital asking the important questions so that you're in the know. Join us daily, Monday through Friday, on the Capitol Report on NTD News.
We're watching a Senate hearing delving into fees in financial services and rental housing.
Lawmakers want to know if there are too many so-called junk fees. Let's tune in.
Housing, we're the Banking and Housing and Urban Affairs Committee, and I appreciate that. And we've looked at ways to reduce the costs of housing, including rental housing, in terms of increasing the supply, making sure that we have voucher programs. But one of the other areas where we've seen big increases in the cost of housing is not only rents, but in many of these sort of predatory junk fees. That's the topic of today's discussion. So, Mr. Rust and Mr. Suero, if you could just provide some examples of the most egregious junk fees you've seen in the housing market. And I know some of them surfaced as part of the Real Page lawsuit. Maybe we should start with Mr. Swearno or Mr. Rust, either one, whoever wants to go first.
Right, so there are additional costs being applied to homeownership that also raise the cost of housing. One of the things that we're worried about is any situation where you have to pay, and particularly if you have to pay electronically, where the real cost of an ACH might be 4.5 cents, but you have to pay $7 or $10. The CFPB has been working on addressing junk fees in the title insurance market. Title insurance is an interesting market where there are cross-competitive pressures. Loss ratios on title insurance could be between 3% and 5%. That's the amount of the premium paid that leads back to a payment back to the consumer. Most of the fees in title insurance are going to pay the institutions that led that provided the lead generation for that title insurance policy.
Thank you, Mr. Swearno.
Yeah, no, I'll just add, in the rental market, things like application fees, late fees on your rent payments, utility fees, administrative fees, right? I guess for, the process of applying and things like this. Those are the most common ones that we see. And again, similar pattern to the banking junk fees, which is low-income people across the board are paying those, and Latinos and people of color are also paying those disproportionately.
Thank you. Well, thank you for your work on this, and to the CFA, thank you and the team there for what you're doing, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, Senator Von Hollen. Senator Butler of California is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for having this hearing, and thank you all for your testimony and for your work. I'd like to just associate myself with the questioning from Senator Van Hollen relative to the rental market application fees, and Mr. Swearno, those that you just mentioned, as they have just an incredibly impactful impact on young people in the country who are trying to find a way to do all the things that we expect them to do, save their money and be prepared for a rainy day, and the $100 application fee or the $50 trash takeout fee. And so I appreciate your comment specifically to that market and to those young people, because I think there are some things that we can and should be doing. Let me turn to actually, Mr. Swearno, where you left off, the notion of disproportionate impact and racial wealth gaps relative to junk fees. The Federal Reserve Survey of Consumer Finances showed that while the wealth of Black and Hispanic households grew at a faster rate than the wealth of white households, disparities continue to persist, in part due to the proliferation of junk fees. Consumers of color are often pushed out of mainstream financial products into fringe financial services and predatory financial products, including high-cost loans and credit cards. You know this as well as I do, and thank you for helping my team facilitate that financial literacy webinar last week. Mr. Swearno, Mr. Rust, either of you can take the question, but what are the ways that junk fees perpetuate existing racial wealth gaps and hinder generational wealth building?
Yeah, so I want to start on the access side first. So we've cited already today that high costs are one of the big barriers to obtaining these products. So we know from the FDIC survey, we've done surveys, if you just go out and ask people, why don't you have a bank account? They'll cite cost as one of the biggest barriers. I don't want to pay, it's too expensive to pay for an overdraft fee or a monthly maintenance fee, that type of thing. Same thing for credit card products. They'll tell you the same thing. It's too expensive, interest rates are too high, credit card late fees are too high. So on the one hand, we're creating a situation in which low-income people and people of color disproportionately are left out because they're concentrated in those working class, low-income jobs. So that's on the one hand. And if you look at the access to those products, they always have the least amount of access to those products. In the bigger picture, in terms of wealth, the people who do have these products are also paying the highest fees and the highest costs. And so, you think about what's going on in that situation. That this is a continual process where working class people, people of color, are paying a lot more, a bigger percentage of their money back into financial institutions, and oftentimes it's the biggest financial institutions. We're talking multi-billion, trillion-dollar institutions that are getting that money. So it's a wealth extraction, and it's also a financial exclusion process.
Thank you for that, Mr. Rust. I'd love to get your thoughts to that question, and I have done some work to introduce a set of bills relative to expanding language inclusivity and making sure that we are making the information much more accessible to people whose language is first language is not English. And so I would love to have you combine these two issues for me, if you can. How and why are we here, and then what are things like language access and ways that companies continue to take advantage of these communities?
So sure, thank you. I'll start with the first half and touching on a bit of what Santi said, but adding the Gen Z and millennials face a housing market that's dramatically different than what generations before did. Currently, something like 30% of Gen Z after high school or college are living with their parents. And this is really about a lack of supply of housing, right? But this means that they're not getting on the escalator to homeownership, to wealth building, to all the aspects of what we associate with the American dream. So related to your question, these new generations, younger generations, are more diverse, right? The bargain they're seeing isn't the same bargain. And so to the point about making sure that financial institutions use inclusive language, well, this is very important. We've worked a lot over time in things like adverse action notices, right? When you are turned down for credit, well, why were you turned down for credit? Well, if it's in English, that doesn't really help. If you're someone who comes from a family that speaks a different language, right? This is vitally important to being fair.
Coming up, Serbia arrests a number of Falun Gong practitioners ahead of a visit by Chinese regime leader Xi Jinping. A closer look at the persecution on the heels of a similar move by Russia.
Olympic athletes lose confidence in the World Anti-Doping Agency. The body is under fire for its handling of failed drug tests in Chinese swimming. More shortly here on NTD News Today.
Does shopping for bladder control products have you feeling like you need someone to be on the lookout for you? Now you have your privacy back. We're HDIS, and we home deliver bladder control products directly to you. We're always on the lookout for you. You get free shipping in plain, unmarked boxes. So your private matters stay private. We understand how you feel. For over 35 years, we've delivered bladder control products to millions of Americans, just like you. You don't have to worry about incontinence any longer. Call now for your free product sample pack and over $45 in money-saving coupons. At HDIS, we're always in stock. We carry all brands in hundreds of styles and sizes. You'll be sure to get what you need, guaranteed.
For your free sample pack with your free catalog and $45 in money-saving coupons and free product samples, call 800-701-6159. That's 800-701-6159.
This is an important message from USA Family Protection. You may now be eligible for up to $50,000 for your funeral and other final expenses, starting at less than $1 a day.
Mom, it's so great to see you.
Oh, you too, son. And I have to tell you, I've been thinking about the future, and it's really important to me that I don't leave you and your sister with my debts, especially the cost of my funeral and other final expenses, which can be more than $9,000.
Yeah, that would be really hard on us.
Well, I called USA Family Protection, and with one phone call, I was eligible for $50,000 for my funeral and final expenses.
But what about your health issues? Don't they require a medical exam?
That's the best part. There's no medical exam, just a few quick questions, and I was able to get coverage right over the phone. Plus, my rates can never be increased, my benefits can never be decreased, and my coverage can never be canceled.
That's really great, Mom. But can you afford it?
Yes, rates start at less than $1 a day, and when the time comes, payout to you and your sister happens in as little as a few days. I am so happy to know you two are taken care of.
Thanks, Mom. Me too.
Don't leave your loved ones with your debt. Call USA Family Protection at 800-760-6571 and get up to $50,000 for your funeral and other final expenses. There's no medical exam, just a few health questions, and you can be approved right over the phone. Your rates can never be increased, your benefits can never be decreased, and your coverage can never be canceled. Call 800-760-6571. There's no hidden fees and no waiting periods to get covered. Call 800-760-6571. There's no obligation. Call 800-760-6571.
Want to know what's really happening around the world? Join us for a deep dive discussion with our expert panel on International Reporters Roundtable.
Chinese Communist Party leader Xi Jinping is still in Europe. He received a red carpet welcome on Wednesday from Serbia, one of China's more friendly partners in Europe.
In a move likely to appease the Chinese regime, Serbian authorities arrested several practitioners of Falun Gong, or Falun Dafa, ahead of Xi's visit and released them after Xi left the country.
Falun Gong, also known as Falun Dafa, is a meditation practice heavily persecuted in China.
One of the detainees, Dejan Markovic, told the Epoch Times that authorities arrested 6 practitioners plus 2 of their relatives. His brother and 80-year-old woman were among them. They were detained for about 24 hours in several locations.
Markovic said the police boss said he knew the practitioners were good people, but was forced to follow orders. According to the arrest warrant, Serbian authorities accused the practitioners of posing a serious threat to persons under international protection.
But once the Chinese leader left the country, another document was handed to the detainees saying the threat doesn't exist anymore. Markovic called the governmental statements the biggest nonsense. He said, according to this logic, anyone who ever said anything against China could be detained for security reasons.
He says he's convinced the targeted arrests were a result of orders from the Chinese Communist Party. The Falun Gong practitioners planned on suing the government over the detention. As of now, Serbian authorities haven't publicly commented on the matter.
Serbia shares close ties with China and relies heavily on Beijing's billion-dollar investments. The Chinese regime launched a nationwide suppression against Falun Gong 25 years ago. It also exports its persecution beyond its borders. Falun Gong is a spiritual discipline that consists of meditative exercises and moral principles. And banned Chinese exports are reportedly sneaking through loopholes in U.S. law again. Research published this week shows nearly 1/5 of the products it tested use banned cotton from the Xinjiang region.
The U.S. accuses Beijing of committing human rights violations and genocide against the Uyghur ethnic group there, and has banned the use of products made with forced labor. Here's more.
From cotton swabs to shoes and clothes, researchers tested over 800 products from both American and global retailers and found almost 20% of them contain the same DNA as Xinjiang cotton. Zooming in on the products made of Xinjiang cotton, nearly 60% of them came from American brands. The agencies declined to name those retailers, but clearly stated what countries the products and brands came from. The dates of these purchases vary from last February up until this March. Worth noting, a 2022 federal report says nearly 90% of China's cotton originated from Xinjiang. Xinjiang is a region in the northwest of China and is where most Uyghurs in the country reside. The U.S. has openly urged the Chinese regime to stop its human rights violations, including forced labor and even genocide against the Uyghurs. Only a week ago, a U.S. Labor Department official told Congress that the Uyghurs in Xinjiang are, quote, living in fear. She urged American businesses to not operate in the region. Congress also passed the Uyghurs Forced Labor Prevention Act 4 years ago. The law requires American businesses to prove their supply chains in China don't use forced labor. If they can't, their Xinjiang imports are banned from entering the U.S. market. But there's a loophole. Some of the world's largest producers of cotton products, including Asian countries like Vietnam, Cambodia, and Bangladesh, purchase massive quantities of finished fabric from China, meaning they use Chinese cotton fabric for products that are considered to be made in those countries. And those goods are likely to be sold to customers in the U.S. and elsewhere.
Some athletes have lost trust in the World Anti-Doping Agency. That's after the body's handling of failed drug tests in Chinese swimming. The head of the Athletes Commission for Team USA is voicing concerns about the organization's independence and transparency. NTD's Andrew Thomas has the latest.
The World Anti-Doping Agency has been under pressure since confirming that 23 Chinese swimmers tested positive for trimetazidine before the Tokyo Olympics in 2021. China's anti-doping agency said they tested positive for the banned substance because of contaminated food. WADA's science department accepted that explanation.
I mean, the reality is it's going to be too late for some things. I think there was like 3 months that went from the time of the positive test to the time the kitchen was swabbed. What does that mean?
Ramsey says normal policies and procedures appeared not to have been followed.
Some of the concerns were, why weren't they provisionally suspended? It's our understanding that should have happened. Why was an independent investigation not, why did people not go in and do it? We understand it was COVID, but there are ways to get around that when stuff like this occurred.
The head of the Athletes Commission for Team USA believes the agency needs to show that it's independent, especially as athletes prepare for the Paris Games.
Going into Paris, all right, do we know this has happened any other time? What else is going on? What else don't we know? Because unfortunately, when there's not transparency, then that just raises a lot of questions.
The Paris Games begin July 26th. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
And South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol is promising a new start. He admitted today that his government's attempts to improve people's lives haven't been working out.
In his first news conference for 21 months, he said that a crushing election defeat for his ruling party last month reflected how voters viewed his 2 years in office. Here's more.
정부의 이런 정책과
There has been a lack of communication with the people to explain the government's policies and efforts.
Yoon, who narrowly won the presidency in 2022, now faces approval ratings as low as 21%. On Thursday, he promised new policies to revive the economy. He also vowed to tackle issues like the country's rock-bottom birth rate. Already the world's lowest, South Korea's fertility rate sank again last year, with women citing factors like the cost of childcare for not having kids.
저출생 대응 기획부라는
I would like to share that we're establishing a new government agency to respond to the low birth rate and assigning it to work as a control tower. This low birth rate issue is not something we can take time with, as it is a national crisis.
Yoon also apologized for the first time over the controversy surrounding his wife's acceptance of an expensive gift in 2022, calling her behavior unwise. On foreign policy, he maintained South Korea's stance against supplying weapons to conflict zones, including to Ukraine. Despite being a major military exporter, South Korea avoids providing.
More from Asia. Japan is set to start hunting fin whales 5 years after restarting commercial whaling. What's driving the controversial move? Take a look.
Japan is to start hunting fin whales in a move certain to face strong opposition from environmentalists. Chief Cabinet Secretary Yoshimasa Hayashi on Thursday said the species would be added to its commercial whaling list after the country's fisheries agency this week sought public comment on a draft revision of its policies.
Whales are an important food resource, and like other marine living resources, they should be used sustainably based on scientific evidence. I believe it's important to preserve traditional food culture in Japan.
Over the last 5 years, Japan has been trying to expand its whaling business. It resumed commercial hunting in its territorial waters and exclusive economic zones in 2019, after withdrawing from the International Whaling Commission. Whale consumption in Japan hit its peak in the early 1960s, but did not become widespread as other meats became more accessible. Commercial whaling in Japan is currently limited to 3 minor species: minke whales, Bright's whales, and sei whales.
Before we head to break, if you have any feedback, please email us at news.today@ntd.com.
And stay with us. We'll have more stories in just a moment.
A faith rich in beauty and tradition, uplifting the mind and body, persevering through decades of persecution. Watch our special coverage of the 2024 World Falun Dafa Day Parade live from New York City, starting 11 a.m. Eastern Time, here on NTD.
There are real consequences to controlled media. And NTD's founders know them firsthand. Our freedom of thought is the price. This is the lesson that guides us in everything we do.
So there's the tear gas there.
We know the value of a free society. And we take seriously the responsibility to preserve it. We are NTD.
Hi, folks. Do you trust this economy? What if you could receive a strong fixed rate of return that's not correlated to the stock market or the Fed? And what if you were in control? You could turn your income on or off, compound it, whatever you choose. What if your interest was compounded daily, you were paid monthly, and there were absolutely no fees? And what if you could have peace of mind because there was no attack on your principal if you ever needed your money back? Well, folks, there is an investment with all of these features. Investors all over the country are earning a high fixed rate of return with Refi, and they don't care about what happened with the stock market or the Fed. And best of all, they receive their statement every month with no surprises. Would you like some more information? Just call 877-80-INVEST. That's 877-80-INVEST. Or log on to investyrfi.com. That's investyrfi.com. Refi, do well by doing good.
A performance that truly matters. For each and every one of us. This is what you've been waiting for. Coming to Lincoln Center, NJ-PAC, State Theater, Purchase, and Stamford. Starting March 28th. Tickets at shenyun.com.
What do you do when your tire goes flat and there's no air anywhere? You reach for Bullseye Pro, the smarter, faster, hands-free way to fill it up with air. Bullseye Pro is equipped with a rechargeable lithium-ion power plant. So fast and so convenient. It's like the power of an air compressor in the palm of your hand. Look, you can inflate all 4 tires on a single charge. It has a built-in smart pressure digital sensor that gauges and automatically stops when the set tire pressure is reached. Easily inflate pool toys, exercise balls, and more. Call or go online now and get the complete Bullseye Pro inflation system for the factory direct price of just $79.99. Plus, we'll ship your entire order free, and we'll give you a 50% discount on a second one. Order now.
To order, call 1-800-984-7221. That's 1-800-984-7221, or go to getbullseyepro.com.
These are all farmers. Maybe
no,
not
there's
this
not a
one.
farm anymore.
But here's a farm, right?
No, there's also not a farm anymore.
All these people shut down because of the government policies?
Yeah.
The government wants to control the food. So we don't eat meat, but we eat insects.
As the price of staples goes through the roof, people will say, I can't afford a steak anymore. So, all right, I'll eat your stupid crickets.
Former President Trump files a major motion against the gag order in his New York case. We have the latest on what's happening in the courtroom.
Israel responds to President Biden's threat to cut off military supplies. Find out the latest in the Israel-Hamas war.
Russian President Vladimir Putin today accusing the West of risking a global conflict and said no one would be allowed to threaten Moscow.
Ukraine's parliament today voting to remove 2 senior officials who are at the heart of Kyiv's wartime economy, who they are and why they're being let go.
Serbian authorities arrested a number of Falun Gong practitioners ahead of the visit by Chinese regime leader Xi Jinping. A closer look at the cross-country persecution.
Action and adrenaline meet heartfelt stories in the new military documentary 777. We'll hear from the director about the 9 special ops troops featured in the film and how they filmed it in just 1 week, all in transit.
This is NTD News Today, live from our NTD Global Headquarters. Here are Stephania Cox and Chris Beers.
Former President Trump is in court for another day of his New York trial.
Here's what he said as he entered the courtroom this morning.
I just want to let you know that we've just filed a major motion in the appellate division concerning the absolutely unconstitutional gag order, where I'm essentially not allowed to talk to you about anything meaningful that's going on in the case, and many good things are going on with the case. It shouldn't have been filed. See, we have so many police down here, New York's finest, and they are New York's finest. They're just told what to do, but they don't have them at Columbia, they don't have them at NYU or any other places. This is like an armed camp down here, and you have nothing to worry about. Believe me. Your problem is from the left, it's not from the right. Big problem from the left. It's from within our country. That's a bigger, in my opinion, a bigger danger than China or Russia.
Adult film actress Stormy Daniels is back on the witness stand today as she faces cross-examination by defense attorneys.
Trump's lawyers grilled her on her motives for accepting the so-called hush money. They questioned her credibility and claimed she makes up phony stories about inmate encounters.
Intimate encounters, right there. The defense attorneys focused on Daniels' financial motives by bringing up her book contract, her tour, and the merchandise she sells. Daniels denied asking for money from Trump, and she accused the defense attorneys of trying to trick her.
Republican Senator Rick Scott was in the courtroom to support Trump. He said what's happening to Trump is wrong and that the case is election interference.
And Maga Inc. arrives on TikTok. The biggest super PAC supporting former President Trump joined the controversial social media platform yesterday. The super PAC has already posted some content. One video criticizes Robert F. Kennedy Jr., calling him a radical leftist, and another focuses on voters' wallets. It poses the question of whether Americans can afford 4 more years of President Biden.
Taylor Budowich is CEO of MAGA Inc. He wrote on the X, the super PAC refuses to cede any platform to Biden and the Democrats. Budowich added they want to ensure Trump's America First agenda is brought to every corner of the internet and all across the nation. Former President Trump's youngest son, Barron Trump, has been chosen as an at-large delegate for Florida at the Republican National Convention.
18-year-old Barron joins several other family members, Donald Trump Jr., Eric Trump, and Tiffany Trump, who were also selected.
Trump's longtime friend and luxury real estate developer Steve Witkoff, along with Trump advisor and associate Sergio Gore, are also listed as delegates.
The Republican National Committee will hold its convention in Milwaukee in July.
Donald Trump, the presumptive Republican presidential nominee, has said he will likely announce his running mate around that time.
Don King endorses former President Trump for president. The iconic boxing promoter made the remarks yesterday after being asked if he has a message for Trump. King remarked that people need to re-elect Trump to save themselves. He added that people have to fight what he called the system of lies.
According to King, what's right and wrong have been flipped upside down.
King said the former president underestimated the power of this strong system of corruption and his hypocrisy, in his words.
Trump shared the video on Truth Social, thanking King for his endorsement and message of encouragement. And today is the deadline for Ohio to ensure President Biden can be on the state's general election ballot. Lawmakers went home yesterday without reaching an agreement. The issue with Biden's nomination is the timeline. Ohio law says the deadline to nominate a candidate is 90 days before the general election.
This year, Election Day is November 5th, which makes the deadline August 7th. But the Democratic National Convention, where Biden's nomination will become official, isn't until late August.
Once passed and signed by the governor, Ohio bills typically take 90 days to become law. So that's the reason for the May 9th date for lawmakers to do something about this. Ohio Governor Mike DeWine, a Republican, has vowed that Biden will appear on the ballot, if not through legislation, then through the courts.
Alabama dealt with a similar scenario. The state's GOP-controlled House unanimously voted to pass a bill to get Biden on the ballot.
Independent candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. had a brain parasite over a decade ago, but his campaign says he's now fully recovered. Kennedy traveled extensively in Africa, South America, and Asia in his work as an environmental advocate. A Kennedy spokeswoman said he contracted the parasite in one of those locations. She told Reuters the issue was resolved more than 10 years ago, and Kennedy is now in robust physical and mental health. Kennedy has portrayed himself as vibrant and youthful on the campaign trail compared to President Biden and former President Trump. His spokeswoman commented, saying, "Questioning Mr. Kennedy's health is a hilarious suggestion given his competition. Kennedy is pushing for ballot access as an independent in all 50 states and challenging Trump and Biden to debate."
And in Michigan, 2 people who challenged the results of the 2020 election have been charged over a voter data breach that year. The state's attorney general announced the defendants yesterday as Stephanie Scott and Stephanie Lambert. Scott is a former Adams Township clerk, and Lambert is a pro-Trump attorney who is already facing charges in a separate election tampering case in Michigan.
Both women are accused of felonies, including conspiracy and sharing voter data with an unauthorized third party. Scott was charged with 6 crimes and Lambert charged with 3. Scott has previously denied wrongdoing. A Boeing 737 plane carrying 85 people skidded off a runway in Senegal yesterday, injuring 10 people. The Air Senegal flight was operating by Transair. It was headed to neighboring Mali. It had around 80 passengers, 2 pilots, and 4 cabin crew on board.
The injured are being treated at a hospital, while the others were taken to a hotel to rest.
No other details were immediately available. Boeing did not respond to a request for comment.
And a Boeing 737 jet's front tire burst upon landing at an airport in southern Turkey. It was flown by Turkey-based Corendon Airlines. There were no casualties. The Transport Ministry said the front landing gear was damaged. The jet was arriving from Cologne, Germany. 184 passengers and 6 crew members were evacuated.
Experts say burst tires on landing are relatively common. They typically only require minor repairs, but they can trigger a search for tire debris or cause passenger evacuation.
This incident comes just a day after a larger Boeing jet made an emergency landing at Turkey's Istanbul airport. That plane skidded on its nose down the runway. Turkish authorities are still investigating.
In Washington, D.C., the House yesterday voted to pass a 1-week extension for federal aviation programs. Congress currently has a May 10th deadline to reauthorize administration authorities. That's tomorrow.
The move would give lawmakers until May 17th to make a decision. The draft bill seeks to bolster aviation safety standards and consumer protections. The Senate will need to okay this extension now that it's passed the House.
In related news, the FAA said Wednesday it was delaying requirements for air traffic controllers to get at least 10 hours off between shifts and 12 hours off before a midnight shift. The new rules came after an independent review of fatigue issues called for minimum rest periods.
The FAA is struggling to address a persistent shortage of air traffic controllers and a series of near-miss incidents, including some attributed to controller error.
Under current rules, controllers handling active airplanes must get an 8 or 9 hour break between shifts in most instances.
Coming up, a group of illegal immigrants at a Denver encampment are refusing to move into an indoor shelter, and they're now sending a list of demands to city leaders.
A stunning number. More than 300,000 1,000 American kids have lost a parent to drug overdoses over a 10-year period. Details from the new report.
And Miss Teen USA is giving up her title just 2 days after Miss USA stepped down. More on why the two pageant queens are leaving their roles in just a moment here on NTD News Today.
Hi, I'm Susan Lucci. You may know me from my many years on television. I never thought about heart disease until I had my own heart event. I felt this slight pressure on my chest, just slight. I thought, oh, it's nothing, it'll go away. I didn't get it. I did not get it. But a few days later, while shopping at a boutique, that pressure returned, much stronger. It felt like an elephant pressing on my chest. I had a 90% blockage in my main artery and a 75% blockage in the adjacent artery. I was rushed into surgery where I received 2 stents in my arteries. Stents developed through research funded by the American Heart Association. Those stents saved my life. That's why I'm in front of you today, asking you to join me in supporting the American Heart Association by becoming a monthly donor. Call now or go to helpheart.org. For only $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, you can help fund the next medical breakthrough. Get the next person trained in CPR, the next hospital certified in high-quality cardiovascular care. I'm so grateful to the American Heart Association. Their research helped save my life. I can enjoy life with my children, my grandchildren, and my friends. Heart disease is America's #1 killer, and your support now can help save your life or the life of someone you love. Give $19 a month with your credit card, and we'll send you this special t-shirt that you can wear to show that you are helping save lives. Please, listen to your heart. The only reason I'm here today is because I did. So please call the number on your screen or go to helpheart.org now. Join me as a monthly donor today and help save even more lives. Thank you.
We're told in Genesis chapter 1:26 that God has made man in his image, and by his likeness has he made him.
In this free online course, Dr. Justin Jackson, a distinguished Hillsdale College professor, guides you through the Genesis story. When you sign up, you'll explore some of life's most important questions, gain a greater appreciation for how the Bible confronts pain and hardship with redemption and hope. Sign up for the Genesis story, free of charge at learnfromhillsdale.org.
When it comes to making plans, you are the best. What about those barbecues you plan in detail for your family? Or your daughter's first costume party? It was out of this world. The same way you plan each detail for those moments, start planning to protect you and your loved ones from a natural disaster. Sign up for local weather and emergency alerts. Prepare an emergency kit and make a family communications plan. Protecting your family is the best plan you can make.
We're in the nation's capital asking the important questions so that you're in the know. Join us daily, Monday through Friday, on the Capitol Report on NTD News.
A group of illegal immigrants at an encampment in Denver are refusing to leave until city leaders meet their demands. That's despite the fact that the encampment is set to be removed. The city of Denver wants to relocate the people into an indoor shelter, but the immigrants don't agree.
A group called House Keys Action Network Denver posted 13 demands they want met before entering an indoor shelter. For example, they want the city to guarantee that there won't be a sheriff placed 24/7 inside the shelter, arguing the illegal immigrants are not criminals.
Wow. They want the city to provide free immigration lawyers and other legal services, including free transportation to court dates. The group also demands that all of the immigrants should receive help with employment support, including work permit applications.
Denver is battling a $180 million budget gap right now. That's as the illegal immigrant crisis continues to weigh heavily on the city. Earlier this year, the city's mayor announced he'll cut public services to help pay for the immigration crisis.
And the chair of the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, Martin Gruenberg, is facing calls from lawmakers to resign. This after a scathing 234-page report was released Tuesday about pervasive sexual harassment, discrimination, and bullying at the agency.
The report, commissioned by the FDIC, confirmed the findings of a November Wall Street Journal investigation, which revealed the long-standing problematic culture.
The report was based on interviews with over 500 employees. It did not find that Gruenberg alone was responsible for the issues.
If Gruenberg steps down, there could be significant ramifications for banks across the country. Gruenberg did not respond to a request for comment. Strong economy? Think again, says a new Brownstone Institute publication. The recent article says Americans have more to worry about economically than most people realize. I spoke with Jeffrey Tucker, the founder of the Brownstone Institute, for more on America's economic outlook. Jeffrey Tucker, thank you so much for joining us. Now, a new article by your organization, the Brownstone Institute, suggests that the economic situation is not as strong as many people are led to believe. Explain that.
Sure. Well, this is by David Stockman. He was actually the budget advisor to Reagan in Reagan's first term, so he knows what he's talking about, and he's a data maven. He's been looking at these data releases now coming out for several years, and three in particular: the CPI, which is supposedly measures inflation, but it does not. It wildly underestimates inflation by a lot, because it doesn't include for example, the interest you pay on loans. It miscalculates rent, and has the opposite calculations when it comes to health insurance. So there's that problem. Then you've got the GDP data, which is wildly skewed by the inclusion of government spending. So we get this perverse situation where the government taxes you more and inflates and steals a bunch of money and then spends trillions of dollars and goes deep into debt, and that registers itself as GDP increases. And then the weirdest one is on the labor numbers, on the jobs numbers, which, you know, what we're doing is replacing full-time jobs for part-time jobs. And calling that economic recovery. So you put all that together, and you've got a very ugly situation that's guaranteed to get worse.
Yeah, so you're saying it's guaranteed to get worse. Where is this heading?
Well, it looks like the stagnation is already here. I mean, stagnation is what we used to call the combination of inflation plus weakness in the jobs realm. Well, we've got both, so it's stagnation. If you look at the data reported by the Bureau of Labor Statistics, they're looking at household income and showing it gradually increasing in real terms. But that is all contingent upon these inflation numbers and on data collection techniques that are not accurate, and the BLS has become highly politicized. The Census Bureau, on the other hand, does a relatively more accurate report on actual household income gathered from real surveys. They only do it once a year. But for 2 years in a row, it's shown dramatic declines. So in a few months' time, we're going to get the new data for last year, and I promise you it's going to show really devastation. I'm expecting declines in real income between 5 and say 8% to be very obvious in the data. And then at that point, people are going to start screaming, oh my goodness, I really am poorer than I was 3 years ago, and I really am spending too much money.
Jeffrey, the picture you've painted isn't exactly rosy. Is there any hope in your outlook for the future of the American economy?
Well, I tell you what, the Federal Reserve is promising hope in the form of rate cuts, but it's not going to do that. What it's going to do is rescue the banks, and they hope it's going to rescue the Biden administration in November, but it's going to fuel inflation even further. So I think that's a false hope. We're looking at record credit card debt. At the same time, household savings have plummeted. They keep falling lower and lower and lower. They're down to like 3.2%, which is appalling. This is the candle burning at both ends. So households need to change their spending habits and change their economic outlook and start thinking about the future. And that's the only real hope.
All right, Jeffrey Tucker, thank you so much for your time today, as always.
Such a pleasure.
And the president of USC is now taking heat for countering campus protests. The University of Southern California's Faculty Senate voted to censure her and the provost. The resolution to censure President Carol Folt and Provost Andrew Guzman passed after a 3-hour session Wednesday.
Faculty aren't happy with the decision to cancel the valedictorian's commencement speech, change graduation plans, and remove protesters from campus. The resolution calls for a task force to investigate these events and then provide a public report on its findings by September 15th. More than 321,000 children in the United States lost a parent to drug overdoses from 2011 to 2021. That's according to a study published Wednesday in JAMA Psychiatry. During the decade studied, more than 649,000 people died of a drug overdose. The study found more children lost their fathers to an overdose than their mothers. The age group with the highest rates of drug overdoses was parents between 26 and 40 years old. Researchers reported the rate of children whose parents died by a drug overdose more than doubled during the 10-year period.
Wow, devastating. And next up, a group of 25 states is suing the Biden administration's Environmental Protection Agency, or EPA. They're seeking to block a landmark rule requiring sweeping reductions in carbon emissions. The Biden administration finalized the EPA rules on April 25th as part of its climate agenda. The rule mandates that new natural gas plants and existing coal-fired power plants reduce their greenhouse gas emissions by 90% by 2032.
The requirements are expected to force the U.S. power industry to install billions of dollars worth of emissions control technologies or shut down some of the facilities running on coal.
West Virginia Attorney General Patrick Morrisey is spearheading the lawsuit. He says the regulations are done without congressional permission and exceed the agency's authority.
The lawsuit comes a day after 23 states challenged a different EPA rule that limits the emission of mercury and other hazardous pollutants. Houston has a new police chief. The department is still under intense scrutiny over why hundreds of thousands of cases were never investigated. Mayor John Whitmire said the police department needs to move forward under new leadership. Former police chief Troy Finner revealed in February that more than 264,000 incident reports in the past 8 years were never submitted for investigation. Officers simply assigned them an internal code that cited a lack of available personnel. Finner said he ordered his command staff to stop using the code after learning about it in November 2021. However, Houston television stations reported Tuesday that Finner was informed about the issue in a 2018 email. The mayor called the discovery of the email the final straw.
A cyber attack has disrupted clinical operations at the major healthcare nonprofit Ascension. In a statement, Ascension says it detected unusual activity on some of its computer systems yesterday. The network includes 140 hospitals and dozens of senior living facilities in 19 states. Ascension says it notified authorities and initiated procedures to ensure patient care will be minimally impacted. The company also says it will notify patients if any sensitive data was compromised in the hack. Healthcare providers across the U.S. have suffered ransomware attacks in recent years. The CEO of United Health says a third of Americans could have had their data stolen when a subsidiary suffered a ransomware attack in February.
The U.S. Treasury Department is partnering with Wall Street to defend banks against hackers. The alliance, dubbed Project Fortress, includes protective measures such as what's being called a cyber hygiene tool. Banks can opt into this free feature, which will automatically scan their systems for vulnerabilities. More than 800 companies have already signed up, according to an expert familiar with the matter. The project also features an information-sharing part to better detect online threats. Besides defending against hackers, there are also offensive actions being taken to deter them from even going after U.S. financial institutions in the first place. A U.S. official says Project Fortress has been in the works for months and is being rolled out in stages.
And Miss Teen USA is resigning from her title. This comes just 2 days after Miss USA stepped down. Miss Teen USA, Uma Sofia Srivatsa, announced her resignation yesterday on Instagram.
She says she's been grappling with the decision for months and that her personal values no longer fully align with the direction of the organization.
It's not clear in what way her values don't align with the organization. Miss Teen USA responded, saying they wish Srivatsa the best.
The resignation comes just 2 days after Miss USA Noelia Voigt announced she's giving up her crown. She cited her physical and mental well-being as the reason for stepping down. 4 flight attendants were arrested for smuggling millions of dollars of drug money. The money was never seized during travel because the flight attendants used their privileges to bypass security. The flight attendants work at John F. Kennedy Airport in New York City. They would use the known crew member lane to bypass normal security checks and enter without going through X-ray procedures. The 4 face charges related to unlicensed money transmission for smuggling a total of about $8 million in cash over many years. Delta Airlines confirmed that it employed 2 of the flight attendants. All dogs that want to enter the U.S. now must appear healthy on arrival. This is an effort by the CDC to cut down and prevent rabies in the U.S. The rule includes service canines. Dogs must also be at least 6 months old and microchipped. Owners also have to fill out a CDC dog import form online 2 to 10 days before arrival. Officials add that more requirements may apply based on where the dog has traveled or where it was vaccinated. The new rules will go into effect starting on August 1st. You can visit the CDC website for a travel checklist for dogs from high-risk countries.
And a farm in Missouri that breeds Budweiser Clydesdales has welcomed 50 new foals this year. Slightly happier news. How cute they are. Warm Spring Ranch in Boonville is home to more than 70 Clydesdales. The ranch says the public's first opportunity to see the foals will be at an event this weekend.
When Clydesdales are born, they're about 3 feet tall and weigh roughly 150 pounds. As adults, they're usually about 6 feet tall and weigh around 2,000 pounds. They eat up to 20 quarts of grain, 50 pounds of hay, and drink up to 35 gallons of water every day. That's a lot of water.
That is a lot of water. And over in Louisiana, authorities had their hands full on Interstate 10 when a massive hog got loose on the roadway. It happened Monday morning in Baton Rouge.
The effort to wrangle the animal involved not only police and animal control, but also the Louisiana Department of Transportation. Police had to block off 1 lane while recovering the swine.
Details weren't available on how the hog got loose, but there was a trailer nearby with a door that appeared to be broken open. Coming up, the UK today saying their system and scale of arms exports is very different than that of the US. What's behind the statement and how it relates to Israel?
And the European Union prepares for June elections. The bloc is facing the war in Ukraine and fundamental questions about its reach and purpose.
Some Olympic athletes are losing confidence in the World Anti-Doping Agency. The body is under fire for its handling of failed drug tests in Chinese swimming. More in just a moment here on NTD News Today.
Hey everyone, it's me, Sebastian, and it is a beautiful day today. We have so much to be grateful for, so just remember, if you see someone without a smile, give them one of yours. I just love inspiring people to be the best they can be, and the reason I'm able to inspire so many people is because people like you who inspire me with your support of Shriners Hospitals for Children. Since I was little, I've broken 100 bones, and I've had 19 surgeries. Shriners Hospitals for Children was with me every step of the way. But more than that, they've given me the confidence to know I can do whatever I set my mind to. Like right now, I've set my mind to sharing my smile with you. Did you get it?
Because of people like you, I can play the violin.
I can play piano.
I can understand.
The help I get is only possible because of caring people like you who pick up the phone and call the number on your screen to make your monthly gift.
And when you call or go online right now to donate $19 a month or more, we'll send you this adorable Love to the Rescue blanket as a thank you and a reminder of all the smiles you're bringing to kids' faces every day.
Kids like me.
And me.
And me.
And me. So what are you waiting for? You can inspire kids like me by visiting loveshiners.org. After all, you can't help everyone, but you can help someone. So let's go!
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for giving. Join me and bring a smile to the world with your monthly gift today.
Please call now. If operators are busy, please call again or go to loveshriners.org right away.
Join me and bring a smile to the world.
The tempting online world is encroaching on our campus. Is unplugging cables and confiscating phones the solution to protect our children? No, we just need a clean multimedia platform. Join Ganjing Campus to leverage premium channel features, professional development courses, and kindness event toolkits tailored for teachers. Build a truly positive and interactive classroom community. Foster a pure and delightful learning environment for children.
The 2024 NTD 9th International Chinese Vocal Competition is scheduled to take place at Merkin Hall, Kaufman Music Center in New York from September 18th to 21st. The competition specially invites vocalists from the world-famous Shen Yun Performing Arts to serve as judges. The prestigious Gold Award is $10,000. Chinese vocal artists aged 18 to 50 are welcome to register.
Hi, I'm Kelly Wright. We thank you for joining us and watching America's Hope here on NTD News. Bottom line is, I know you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, but let's give you some good news in the midst of the bad news. Watch us nightly, right here on NTD News, for a full dose of America's Hope.
The Biden administration is working on a report for Congress this week on whether Israel has violated international law during the war in Gaza.
This comes as President Biden last night warned Israel that the U.S. will cut off weapons supplies if Israel starts the major ground operation in Rafah.
It will not be transmitted today. We continue to work to finalize the report. We expect to deliver it in the very near future in the coming days.
Israeli officials are responding after Biden threatened to cut off supplies of weapons. Israel's ambassador to the United Nations called this, quote, a very disappointing decision, even frustrating.
The country's defense minister said, we have no choice. We have no other country. We will do whatever is necessary.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu reposted an earlier speech in which he said, if Israel is forced to stand alone, Israel will stand alone. Israel's war and security cabinets will be meeting this evening.
The tension comes as the Houthi terrorist group in Yemen said they launched 2 missile attacks in the Gulf of Aden and hit 2 container ships. The ships didn't report any damage.
And now we have some short headlines from the UK, Germany, and other European countries. British Foreign Secretary David Cameron today said the UK's system and scale of arms exports is very different than that of the US. He says the scales that the UK licenses are relatively small and policed by strict procedures.
Cameron was responding to a question on whether Britain would withhold weapons from Israel in case of a major invasion of Rafah. The U.S. recently announced that it will withhold some shipments.
Cameron says there's a very fundamental difference between the U.S. and the U.K. He argues the U.K. supplied less than 1% of Israel's weapons and that it did so under a rigorous licensing system.
Cameron added that the UK would not support a major operation in Rafah without a clear plan to protect civilians.
Russian President Vladimir Putin accuses the West of risking a global conflict. He claims no one is allowed to threaten the nuclear power.
He made the remarks as Russia celebrated the Soviet Union's victory over Nazi Germany in World War II.
Putin accuses Western elites of being arrogant. He says they're forgetting the role the Soviet Union played in defeating Nazi Germany.
Putin warns that Russia won't allow anyone to threaten them and that its troops are always in a state of combat readiness.
Ukraine's parliament today voting to remove 2 senior officials. They both held key positions for Ukraine's wartime economy. One of them is the Deputy Prime Minister for Infrastructure. The other is the Agriculture Minister.
The Deputy Prime Minister oversaw the reconstruction of Ukraine. Lawmakers say his ousting comes amid plans to break up his powerful ministry into 2 separate divisions. It was not immediately clear who would replace him.
The deputy minister said his dismissal was not discussed with him before the vote. He says he did not have a chance to present a detailed report on his activities to Parliament.
The agriculture minister previously submitted his resignation. He was allegedly involved in the illegal acquisition of state-owned land.
The United States is Germany's most important trading partner in the first quarter of this year. The U.S. overtook China.
Germany's trade with the United States totaled $68 billion from January to March. The figure for China was around $64 billion.
In 2023, China was Germany's top trading partner for the 8th year in a row, although it was only a few hundred million ahead of the U.S.
And the European Union marks Europe Day, a month ahead of the European elections. The continent faces war in Ukraine and fundamental questions on the reach and purpose of the EU. NTD's Andrew Thomas has more.
The European elections will be the second biggest exercise in democracy behind the elections in India. The 27-nation bloc of 450 million people will vote on 720 parliamentary seats. The results will have a historical impact on the future of the EU.
I think it will be an existential fight against those who want less Europe, and then those political forces who understand that in the world of tomorrow you need a far more integrated European Union to defend the interests of the Europeans.
Italian MEP Nicola Procaccini said the current composition of the European Parliament isn't ideal.
What I would like to see, obviously something new, something different, a new balance in the Parliament, because for now is too on the left.
Procaccini argues against what he calls a federalist system.
We believe in nations. We think that Europe is the alliance of nations. This is how our father thought about the European Union.
Geopolitical developments such as the war in Ukraine are also prompting European nations to reevaluate their defense efforts. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
Chinese Communist Party leader Xi Jinping is still in Europe. He received a red carpet welcome on Wednesday from Serbia, one of China's more friendly partners in Europe.
In a move likely to appease the Chinese regime, Serbian authorities arrested several practitioners of Falun Gong ahead of Xi's visit and released them after she left the country.
Falun Gong, also known as Falun Dafa, is a meditation practice heavily persecuted in China.
One of the detainees, Dejan Markovic, told the Epoch Times that authorities arrested 6 practitioners plus 2 of their relatives. His brother and an 80-year-old woman were among them. They were detained for about 24 hours in several locations.
Markovic said the police boss said he knew the practitioners were good people, but was forced to follow orders. According to the arrest warrant, Serbian authorities accused the practitioners of posing a serious threat to persons under international protection.
But once the Chinese leader left the country, another document was handed to the detainees saying the threat doesn't exist anymore. Markovic called the governmental statements the biggest nonsense. He said, according to this logic, anyone who ever said anything against China could be detained for security reasons.
He says he's convinced the targeted arrests were a result of orders from the Chinese Communist Party. The Falun Gong practitioners plan on suing the government over the detention. As of now, Serbian authorities haven't publicly commented on the matter.
Serbia shares close ties with China and relies heavily on Beijing's billion-dollar investments. The Chinese regime launched a nationwide suppression against Falun Gong 25 years ago. It also exports its persecution beyond its borders. Falun Gong is a spiritual discipline that consists of meditative exercises and moral discipline.
Some athletes have lost trust in the World Anti-Doping Agency. That's after the body's handling of failed drug tests in Chinese swimming. The head of the Athletes Commission for Team USA is voicing concerns about the organization's independence and transparency. NTD's Andrew Thomas has the latest.
The World Anti-Doping Agency has been under pressure since confirming that 23 Chinese swimmers tested positive for trimetazidine before the Tokyo Olympics in 2021. China's anti-doping agency said they tested positive for the banned substance because of contaminated food. WADA's science department accepted that explanation.
I mean, the reality is it's going to be too late for some things. I think there was like 3 months that went from the time of the positive test to the time the kitchen, was swabbed. What does that mean?
Ramsey says normal policies and procedures appeared not to have been followed.
Some of the concerns were, why weren't they provisionally suspended? It's our understanding that should have happened. Why was an independent investigation not, why did people not go in and do it? We understand it was COVID, but there are ways to get around that when stuff like this occurred.
The head of the Athletes Commission for Team USA believes the agency needs to show that it's independent, especially as athletes prepare for the Paris Games.
Going into Paris, all right, do we know this has happened any other time? What else is going on? What else don't we know? Because unfortunately, when there's not transparency, then that just raises a lot of questions.
The Paris Games begin July 26th. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
Coming up, a special guest, the director of an impossible documentary. It took just 1 week to film, and in the process, 7 former Special Ops troopers set a world record. Find out more when we return here on NTD News.
More than just beautiful dance. It's a touch of the divine. More than just legends. It's the beautiful culture and wisdom of China before communism. More than just a performance. It's an experience that awakens the soul.
Lincoln Center, NJ-PAC, State Theater, Purchase, and Stamford. Starting March 28th. Tickets at shenyun.com.
These are all farmers. Maybe not this one. Farm anymore. But here's a farm, right? No, there's also not a farm anymore. All these people shut down because of the government policies? Yeah.
The government wants to control the food, so we don't eat meat, we eat insect.
As the price of staples goes through the roof, people will say, I can't afford a steak anymore. So, all right, I'll eat your stupid cricket. Do you know that Cars for Compassion is the best way to donate your car? Through this non-profit program, you can not only help us keep bringing the world independent and daringly truthful journalism, but also significantly impact the life of somebody who needs a vehicle. The Epoch Times fights misinformation and big tech censorship by being independent and unbound to advertisers. Every single contribution to Cars for Compassion is a powerful endorsement of our unwavering mission. All you have to do is go to carsforcompassion.org and let us know about your car, and we'll schedule a pickup time and email you a tax-deductible receipt. To do this, just click the link below. Support truth, compassion, and hope. Donate your car right now at www.carsforcompassion.org.
Adopting you was the best decision in our life. And I am so proud to call you my son.
For the day's top headlines and the news you need to know, tune in right here to NTD Evening News.
Welcome back, everyone. May is Military Appreciation Month, and we have something very special to share with all of you who have served our country out there.
And we also have a special guest here with us to speak with us about a documentary that is almost impossible, was said to be almost impossible before it was made, but it has certainly come out as a success, and we're excited to see it and share more about it with you. We have the director of the film himself, Dan Myrick, with us here today. So, Dan, welcome. Great to have you here with us. Thank you so much for joining us.
Great to be here.
Yeah, Dan, thank you so much. Tell us about your new film, 777.
Well, it's a documentary that basically chronicles an expedition headed up by Michael Sorelli, a retired Navy SEAL. 9 former operators decided to skydive in 7 continents within 7 days to raise $7 million for the Folds of Honor charity. So it was a mission that people said couldn't be done, and it was a huge challenge. We went from Antarctica to Santiago, Chile, to Barcelona, to Cairo, Abu Dhabi, Perth, all the way back to Tampa, Florida. So we covered all the continents, and it was quite a logistical challenge, to say the least, because we were flying commercial the whole way. So we had to do a lot of things to make things work. And what a lot of people don't know, at the time we were doing the jump, the FAA had done a domestic shutdown of all flights. So we were in the middle of our Miami jump when that happened as well. So it was quite the challenge.
Incredible.
Wow. Yeah.
It sounds like you covered so much ground.
Yeah.
Despite all of those challenges. And as you said, the experts had said that this is almost impossible. So why did you choose to go ahead with it?
Well, I mean, it's Michael tell you himself, but never tell these guys and gals that they can't do something. That's like an automatic challenge. So they were determined. I mean, this is a group of individuals. They're alpha personalities. These guys are used to these sort of high risk, overachieving missions. And so I wanted to cover that with my crew. My producer, Christian Krempel, was with me as well. And we wanted to tell the story of these guys outside of the Hollywood stereotypes about the kinds of sacrifices they've made throughout their whole careers, what this mission means to Folds of Honor's families and those of the fallen that they were jumping for. So there was a lot going on here, and as a filmmaker, I just wanted to make sure that we told the whole story. We wanted to get inside these guys' heads, that they're more than just warriors. They're the best warriors in the world, but they're also human beings. And so it was important for me to convey that to the general public and just try to look at what these guys and their families do for our country and not take it for granted.
Now, you got to know these gentlemen very well in the making of this film. Was there anything you learned about their lives that surprised you?
Well, most of them are very approachable guys, very down to earth. They like to cut up like anybody else. You have to remind yourself about how skilled and how much they've put into their profession over. Some of these guys have done 10, 15 deployments, combat deployments. So it's humbling to know what these guys have done for our country. But at the same time, they're just normal guys. And we had a great time together. We got to know each other. They had some very funny stories that, and it was a real pleasure getting to know them as people, And I think that's what, again, getting back to the importance of not stereotyping these soldiers that Hollywood tends to do, that they are creative, empathetic, hardworking, successful business people that just happen to be very, very high-level warriors.
Wow. I already want to see it. I can't wait. Taking a step further back, as you mentioned, this is Military Appreciation Month. Mm-hmm. What's the significance of this film coming out this month?
Well, it's about appreciation, and not only that, but the charity that we're jumping for, Folds of Honor. I mean, this is a group that gives the vast majority of the money brought in to scholarships for the children of the fallen, and I can't think of a better mission than that. So that was very important to us, is to keep that on the forefront of the public consciousness of this as this movie rolls out. We're doing kind of screenings right now, these sort of pre-screenings in 5 cities throughout the country right now, all next week. So we're very excited about that. And but yeah, it's just a reminder that these guys, and I'm a civilian, so I'm coming at it from the civilian perspective. So it's just very humbling to be able to work with these guys and show the rest of the world that this is not a political issue. These are individuals that have, some of whom have paid for the ultimate sacrifice to fight for our freedom. So I get to be a filmmaker because these guys are towing the line, right? So it's something I think it's important to remember, and the Folds of Honor, donation and charity for these scholarships for these kids, I think is just as important.
Now, Dan, talk about how you made this film. It details the 7-day challenge, and you're following the soldiers as they're carrying out this 7-day challenge.
Right.
So was that difficult?
It was challenging because normally, I've shot narrative films where you have a whole script. It's very structured, and you know exactly what you're going to be shooting, usually during the day, and where the blocking is going to be and all that. In documentary, you just have to kind of go with the flow.
Yeah.
And this documentary in particular, there was no time to really process much. We were doing 7 days, 7 continents, and seven jumps, and so we were moving so fast, and you didn't have a lot of time to set up for interviews, and also you had to grab stuff, as you were moving in airports, on planes, between a hotel room if you were lucky enough to get a hotel room. So it was a very dynamic, fluid situation that made it very challenging. So, because again, I didn't want to shoot something that was just guys jumping out of airplanes. We've seen that before. That's a cool part of it, no doubt about it. But I wanted to get into the heads of these guys, get into their stories, learn about them as people. And that just takes time. You need to sit down and talk and get to know these guys. And that was a real challenge because we were moving so fast. But we managed to do a good job. The guys were very open and approachable once they got to know me, and I wasn't a threat. But it was great to be able to do that. But yeah, having to do it, and you only have one chance to get it right before you move on to the next city, it was really challenging.
Wow, it sounds like so much fun. Makes just the process of making that like quite an adventure in and of itself.
Yeah.
What lasting message do you hope audiences take away after they see this film?
I think the big takeaway when you see this film is that, one, it's not a political statement of any kind. It's about honoring not only the men and women that fight on our behalf, to have a country that is free, that we take for granted every day when we walk out on the street and we get Starbucks and whatever, or go to a movie. These guys are paying the ultimate sacrifice. Their families pay the ultimate sacrifice. So I want just the average civilian to just have an appreciation for that, like you would first responders or the police force or what have you, that they're willing to go the whole distance to protect our freedom, to protect our way of life. And it's an apolitical issue. I think that's something we should all honor, and I think it's something that we should all be appreciative of, and that's what I hope the big takeaway is.
For sure, at a time when freedom is being challenged all around the world in so many different ways, to have access to these heartwarming behind-the-scenes stories just sounds really touching and a real great way to connect.
Yes, absolutely.
So where can viewers watch this film?
Well, like I said, we're doing 5-city tour right now, kind of a pre-screening tour. We're screening tomorrow here in New York. We also have a screening in Tampa. Next week, we're going to Dallas, Austin, and LA. So if you go to legacyexpeditions.com, you can get information on the cities that we're going to. Also, you can buy tickets there if you want to go to one of the screenings. And then we hope to be rolling out wider after this initial pre-screening. So it should be a lot of fun, very informative. And all these pre-screenings, you get to meet the guys themselves as well. So that's kind of nice. We'll be doing Q&As afterwards and everything. So yeah, and then ultimately, we want it to be on Netflix and Amazon and all the usual suspects so everyone could watch it.
Yeah,
Dan, can you tell us about the story about how this film came together in as it was building up to the production?
Well, Mike Sorelli and I have a mutual friend. He's also the producer, one of the producers on the show, Christian Crumple. He's plugged into the SOCOM community in Tampa, and I've worked with Christian on other projects. And he connected me with Mike and told me about this expedition he was going to do, like this crazy idea of skydiving into 7 continents in 7 days. And I was like, well, that sounds interesting. But what I didn't want to do was just make another, like, you know, Action Jackson movie, right? Or some like Red Bull video. I mean, that's been done. They're fun and they're cool, but I wanted to have access to the guys themselves and to tell the story about who they are. And so surrounded in this really cool expedition where we went to Antarctica, we went to Cairo, we went, I mean, all over the place. That in and of itself was pretty amazing, but what really tickled my fancy as a filmmaker, as a storyteller, is being able to tell the story of these guys. So through Christian, I met Mike. He was totally embracing that idea. He had done a movie called Drop Zone Everest himself the year prior, which I helped edit. So I got to know Mike pretty well through the process, and we wanted the same goal. We wanted to tell the stories of these guys in a more layered, complex light, and not just you know, in a stereotypical form that Hollywood tends to do. And that really attracted me. I like telling those stories about real people that happen to be doing extraordinary things, but they're also just real people, and that has always appealed to me.
Yeah, it sounds like a really beautiful avenue for both creative expression and also getting out the truth that we all share of just our deep humanity.
Yeah, absolutely.
What personally is significant to you about sharing this about service members?
Well, I mean, I grew up in the South, and we always had an appreciation for a strong military, the service to country, the skill required to do that. You know, we have had, you know, many years of, you know, relative peace on our own shores for a reason, and so it's to have access to these guys that are really the elite of the elite. We're talking SEAL Team 6.
Yeah.
You know, some of these guys are retired SEAL Team 6, and so it was really intriguing for me to have an open window, an open door into that world that he let me in.
Absolutely.
And that is unusual. You don't get, not everyone gets to go into that little club for a while. So.
Right.
It was quite humbling.
Yeah, what a privilege. In a
Oh,
way.
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's been really amazing learning more about this film, and I really, as I said, I'm looking forward to watching it. It sounds both unique, heartwarming, and insightful. Thank you so much for coming in to chat with us about it today. 777 is the name.
777.
All right. Thank you so much, and we'll be tuning in to our afternoon news at 3 p.m. this afternoon, so make sure you stay tuned for that. But you can catch more of the film at, what was the website's name?
LegacyExpeditions.com.
LegacyExpeditions.com to learn more about 777.
Thanks, everyone.
A faith rich in beauty and tradition, uplifting the mind and body, persevering through decades of persecution. Watch our special coverage of the 2024 World Falun Dafa Day Parade live from New York City, starting 11 a.m. Eastern Time, here on NTD.